Chapter 3595. But to this, the two young men didn't admit it. They stared at the old man and shouted, "You're talking nonsense. You're slandering us." "I didn't. Everyone, you must believe me." The old man looked at Qin Feiyong and the others for help. Qin Feiyong frowned. Now that both sides had their own story and there was no solid evidence, they couldn't make a choice. Princess Fire Phoenix asked suspiciously, "Old man, since your grandson was killed at that time, how do you know about it in such detail?" "Because before my grandson died, he sent me a message saying that he was being chased and might not be able to come back alive. I asked him then. He told me the whole situation. I thought he could escape, but I didn't expect." Speaking of this, the old man closed his eyes in pain. After a long silence, he opened his eyes and continued, "Not long after, I checked the Divine Voice Stone and found that my grandson's contract bridge had disappeared. May I ask everyone, if my grandson wasn't killed by them, who killed him?" When he said the last sentence, the old man couldn't help but roar hysterically. "How dare you slander a disciple of the Heavenly Palace? You're courting death." Hearing this, the two young men's eyes were filled with killing intent and they slapped at the old man. Whoosh! But at this moment, the white-eyed wolf stepped forward and blocked in front of the old man. It slapped at the two young men with its paw. The two young men were knocked back and blood dripped from the corner of their mouths. "No way! A big fat cat is so strong?" The crowd outside the door was stunned. "Bastard! How dare you attack a disciple of the Heavenly Palace? You're courting death." The two young men stared at the white-eyed wolf with killing intent. The white-eyed wolf ignored them and looked at Qin Feiyong. It bared its teeth and said, "This is easy to solve. Just read their memories." Qin Feiyong smiled and formed a seal with both hands. Two puppet seals appeared in an instant and sank into the top of the heads of the two young men. The two young men were only at the half-step undead realm. It was too easy to control them. Soon, Qin Feiyong was able to read the crucial memories. "How is it?" White-eyed wolf asked. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "It's exactly as you said." Hearing this, before the white-eyed wolf could say anything, Princess Huafeng was the first to fly into a rage. She shouted, "Bastards, not only did you kill someone's grandson, you even made up a rumor to blackmail someone's elderly. You guys are worse than animals. Impudent. Who do you think you are? Even if that is the case, do you dare to attack us? You better know your place. The Heavenly Hall is not something you can offend." The two of them flew into a rage out of humiliation and roared, "What's so great about being a Heavenly Palace disciple?" Suddenly, a strange voice sounded from the crowd outside. Whoosh! Following closely, a black figure appeared in the shop. This person was dressed in black and had a black skull mask on his face. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a slender body. His entire body was emitting a gloomy and evil aura. "It's him! Master Jura." Seeing this person appear, everyone was shocked. Even the two arrogant disciples of the Heavenly Hall had fear on their faces. "The disciples of the Heavenly Hall are really disgusting," the Master Jura said gloomily. He raised his hand and a wisp of the power of law appeared. Like two sharp arrows, it directly penetrated the two young men's eyebrows. Accompanied by a scream, their divine souls and heads were shattered on the spot. After killing the two of them, the Master Jura turned around and left without looking back. As for Qin Feiyong and the others, the Master Jura did not even look at them from the beginning to the end. What's going on? Qin Feiyong and the others came back to their senses and looked at each other. This person was too fierce. He was even more powerful than them, and killed the two disciples of the Heavenly Hall on the spot. The old man came back to his senses and hurriedly ran to the door. Looking at the Master Jura's back, he shouted, "Thank you, Master Jura. You are a good person." However, the Master Jura did not pay attention to him and disappeared. "Grandson, your revenge has been avenged. You can rest in peace." The old man closed his eyes and muttered with his hands clenched. When he opened his eyes, he turned around and ran to Qin Feiyong and the others. He knelt and said, "Thank you for speaking up for justice. This old man is really unable to repay you. Old man, please get up. It's nothing. Don't be so polite." Qin Feiyong went forward to help the old man up and comforted him. "I can understand your feelings, but the dead cannot be brought back to life. You must restrain your grief. Moreover, I also believe that your grandson will not want to see you so sad in the underworld. Yes. The old man nodded and wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. He looked up at Qin Feiyong and smiled. You are also a good person. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. The madman glanced at the old man and sent a voice transmission. Old Qin, did you notice the power of law of the mass de jura? Yes. Qin Feiyong replied secretly. That's the law of time. Although I didn't see through his cultivation, he has the law of time and has such courage. It can be seen that he is not an ordinary person. The madman sent a voice transmission. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed as he looked at the old man and asked, Old man, who is this mass de jura? He seems to be very powerful? Of course he is. However, no one in the northern continent knows who he is. The old man shook his head. No one knows. Qin Feiyong and the others were taken aback as they glanced at the people outside the door. Indeed, no one knows. That's because he always wears a skull mask. No one has ever seen his true appearance. Moreover, his whereabouts are hard to track. Most importantly, he specializes in killing the disciples of the Sky Hall, especially the disciples of the Sky Hall who bully men and women. Once they encounter him, they will definitely die. So over time, we call him the Mass de Jura. The people outside the door began to chatter. Specializes in killing Heavenly Hall's disciples? Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at the white-eyed wolf. They thought it was just a coincidence, but they didn't expect there to be so many stories. The old man smiled and said, although in the eyes of Heavenly Hall, the Mass de Jura is a heinous person, in the eyes of us ordinary people, he is a good person. A good person, Qin Feiyong murmured. Suddenly, he had a strong interest in this Mass de Jura. Mass de Jura, you actually dare to come to Fengyuan City to commit murder. Die. Suddenly, a murderous roar rang out. Boom! In the next moment, a powerful aura exploded in the sky. Perfect dominator realm. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other and immediately walked out. The crowd at the door also turned around and ran to the street, looking up. When Qin Feiyong and the others entered the street and looked up, they saw a black-haired man rushing over aggressively. His cultivation had reached the perfect dominator realm. He is the guard commander of the City Lord Mansion. He must have received the news and came to kill the Mass de Jura. The old man also followed out and said with a worried expression, Guard commander. Qin Feiyong frowned and said, this matter was originally the fault of those two Heavenly Hall disciples. Logically speaking, they shouldn't have attacked the Mass de Jura, right? The old man's expression changed and he hurriedly said, Little brother, you can't say such things casually. Qin Feiyong looked at the old man suspiciously. Although the Mass de Jura has been doing good deeds, in the eyes of Heavenly Hall, his cultivation is challenging the authority of Heavenly Hall. Heavenly Hall will definitely not tolerate this kind of thing. Therefore, if the people of Heavenly Hall hear you, they will definitely vent their anger on you. The old man sighed. But isn't this person from the City Lord Mansion? White-eyed Wolf asked. The City Lord Mansion belongs to Heavenly Hall. After the old man finished speaking, he was slightly stunned and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyong and the others. He said, This is something that everyone knows. Don't you know? We are not from the northern continent. Qin Feiyong smiled. I see. The old man suddenly understood. Whoosh! It was also at this moment. The Mass de Jura rushed into the sky from the city and looked at the guard commander with a pair of black eyes that were filled with coldness and disgust. Don't even think about escaping this time. Surround him. Following the guard commander's shout, figures from the city below rose into the sky from all directions. They were all guards of the City Lord Mansion, and the weakest among them was at the half-step sovereign realm. The Mass de Jura glanced at the guards and then looked at the city below. He then turned around and rushed out of the city. Don't even think about it. Two guards charged at him from the front. You're courting death. The Mass de Jura snorted coldly. Following a clang, a 3-foot-long sword appeared. This long sword was blood-red as if it was dyed in blood. It emitted a monstrous murderous aura. As the Mass de Jura slashed with his sword, a blood-red sword chi surged out like a tide. The two guards screamed on the spot as their blood splattered across the sky. That's a supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact. Lunatic muttered. This person was truly merciless when dealing with people from the Sky Palace. After carving out a path of blood, the Mas de Jura rushed out of the city without looking back and entered the mountains outside the city. Chase. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. If he's alive, I want to see him. The guard commander shouted. A group of people chased into the mountains. Let's go take a look. Qin Feiyong said. Lunatic nodded. Don't go. The old man hurriedly stopped Qin Feiyong. What? Qin Feiyong didn't understand. The old man said, if you go now, the people from the City Lord Mansion will definitely think that you are the Mas de Jura's accomplices. At that time they won't let you go. Qin Feiyong and Lunatic looked at each other and smiled. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you for your concern. We'll meet again. After saying that, the group soared into the sky and disappeared outside the city. Wait, I haven't paid for this jade pendant yet. Princess Huafeng suddenly patted her head and said while looking at the jade pendant in her hand. Do you think that if you give him the soul stone now, he will still want it? Madman chuckled. Princess Huafeng was stunned and couldn't help but smile. The human world was really interesting. Then she wore the jade pendant on her white neck. Although it was just an ordinary jade pendant, it added a bit of charm on her neck. There are still good people in this world. Thank you at the same time. The old man stood in the crowd, looking at the direction where Qin Feiyong and the others disappeared and muttered to himself. Chapter 3596. Outside the city, deep in the mountains, Qin Feiyong's group was moving as fast as lightning. When they arrived above a valley, they immediately stopped and looked at the valley below with shock. There were dozens of corpses lying in the valley below. The heads of the corpses were smashed and blood stained the ground. Although they didn't have heads from their attire and figure, it was clear that they were a group of guard commanders. What's going on? Madman looked at this scene in shock. Were they killed by the Mas de Jura? But this speed was too fast. When he came back to his senses, Madman immediately released his divine sense and spread it in all directions. But within the range of his divine sense, apart from many fierce beasts in the distance, there was no trace of the Mas de Jura. This is impossible. Madman muttered with a face full of disbelief. What's impossible? The white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. Madman said, based on our current speed, even if he's a sovereign at the perfection realm, it's impossible for him to escape from under our noses so quickly. There is indeed a problem. This guard and his group of people were all killed in an instant. The guards are perfect rulers and must have many methods, but they were instantly killed. It seems that this person's strength is beyond our imagination. Could this be the reason why the youth had us come to the northern continent? Qin Feiyong frowned. The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned and asked, You mean that the youth wanted us to investigate the Mas de Jura's true identity? No. With the youth's strength and methods, if he really knows of the Mas de Jura's existence, then he must have seen his true face. Qin Feiyong shook his head. That's true. No matter how strong this Mas de Jura is, he can't escape the youth's investigation. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and waved his hand. This is just my guess. The youth's goal in bringing us to the northern continent isn't the Mas de Jura. This bastard, what does he want us to do in the northern continent? The white-eyed wolf was incomparably angry. He had no clue at all. Madman suddenly asked, Could it be the Sky Palace? Sky Hall? Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. Yes. In the entire northern continent, only the Heavenly Palace can pique the interest of this young man. Madman said. This? Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf fell silent. Although what the madman said made sense, there was no way to confirm it. Princess Huafeng looked at the two people and the wolf who were at a loss. She couldn't help but ask, Who exactly is this young man you're talking about? You can't remember? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The white-eyed wolf glared at her angrily. Princess Huafeng was instantly enraged. She was just asking out of curiosity. Was there a need to be so fierce? Your Highness, calm down, we are civilized people. Don't bother with it. When the Daifuka brothers saw this, they hurriedly comforted him. Wait a moment. I wonder if you guys have noticed a problem? Suddenly, Pyrotechnic Glow spoke from the side. What problem? Everyone couldn't help but look at Pyrotechnic Glow. Since this Master Jura has the ability to instantly kill a group of guards, why didn't he just do it in Fengyuan City? You want to lure the guard commander and his men here? Pyrotechnic Glow asked. Yes. There's no need for him to do that. Because he can instantly kill these people, there's no need to worry about harming the innocent citizens of Fengyuan City. The white-eyed wolf slapped his head and exclaimed, Is it because he's trying to hide something? Hide something? Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other. Yes. He's definitely trying to hide something. But what exactly is he trying to hide? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and looked at the white-eyed wolf and Pyrotechnic Glow. If it's really as you said, then he should be hiding his killing method, such as a powerful law profound. In other words, he's afraid of others seeing his killing method. If others see it, they might be able to guess his identity. Madman asked. Yes, that must be the case. The white-eyed wolf nodded with certainty and analyzed. Brother guesses that this Master Jura must be very famous in the northern continent. He's afraid that others will see through his identity, so he doesn't dare to act recklessly in front of others. Just a guess. You make it sound like it's true. Princess Huafeng pursed her lips. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Just as the two were about to quarrel again, an angry voice suddenly sounded from behind them. You actually killed the guard commander. You really are in cahoots with the Master Jura. Qin Feiyong and the others hurriedly turned around and saw a guard standing in the void not far away, looking at them in horror. This misunderstanding is a bit big, Pyrotechnic Glow muttered, a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. It was obvious that this guard had just arrived. Seeing the guard commander and the others die in the valley, he naturally thought that it was the work of Qin Feiyong and the others. Whoosh! But before Pyrotechnic Glow could do anything, the guard turned around and fled toward Fengyuan City without looking back. Daifuka, kill him! Pyrotechnic Glow no longer concealed the murderous intent in his eyes. No need. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Why? Aren't you someone who hates trouble? I am helping you solve your problem. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. Just think about it. Once the guard reported this misunderstanding to the Grand Chieftain's residence and the Grand Chieftain's residence reported it to the Sky Palace, what would happen then? They would be hunted down all over the lands. The purpose of the young man asking me to come to the northern continent is a little hard to fathom. So, why don't we create a bigger ruckus and see if anyone comes looking for us? Moreover, I would like to meet the big shots of the Sky Palace. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. Do as you wish. Hearing that, Pyrotechnic Glow shrugged and went over to the white-eyed wolf and said with a chuckle, Wolf cub. No, Big Brother Wolf, just tell me, what wine did you give to Yun Zhongtian? Big Brother? Is he that close to you? Don't try to make connections. The white-eyed wolf kicked Pyrotechnic Glow away in disdain. The group returned to Fengyuan City. The madman was silent along the way. Who knows what he was thinking? When Fengyuan City came into sight, the madman transmitted his voice. Old Qin, is there a possibility that the young man's purpose is for us to take over the Sky Palace and use it for our own use? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. Now, in the 4 continents, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Palace are on good terms with us. The Temple of Gods has submitted to us. Now the only one left is the Sky Palace. If we take over the Sky Palace, apart from the 4 Forbidden Lands and the Sky Cloud Sea, the entire Sky Cloud realm is basically under our control, the madman secretly said. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and transmitted his voice. Hearing what you said, it does make some sense. Actually, whether the young man means it or not, I feel that we should take over the Sky Palace. In the future, when the Land of Source gives birth to a few sovereign divine weapons, and when Pei Tianhong and the others become super experts, we who control the 4 continents will have the ability to compete with the 4 Forbidden Lands. The madman secretly laughed. Compete with them? Qin Feiyong murmured. Now, on the surface, the Sky Cloud realm was controlled by the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Demon Palace, the Temple of Gods, and the Sky Palace. But in reality, the ones who truly controlled the Sky Cloud realm were the 4 Forbidden Lands and the Sky Cloud Sea. Any one of these forces was enough to flatten the sky cloud realm. Compared to these behemoths, the humans living in the 4 continents were too weak. The human race. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Feiyong's body trembled and stopped in the void. His face was faintly pale. What's wrong? The madman and the others looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Qin Feiyong didn't speak for a long time, which made the white-eyed wolf and the madman anxious. After a long time, Qin Feiyong looked up at Princess Huafeng and said, "You guys enter the city first. I have some private matters to discuss with the white-eyed wolf and senior brother." Although the words were plain, it carried a majesty that couldn't be disobeyed. It gave people a kind of pressure from the soul, making them involuntarily obey. After Princess Huafeng and the others left, the madman frowned and said, "What are you doing? Don't scare us." I suddenly thought of a problem. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked into the distance. His eyes were incomparably deep and carried a trace of sadness. One man and one wolf looked at each other and asked, "What problem? Didn't you notice the situation? The Sky Cloud Sea is the base camp of the sea beasts. The Heavy Region and the Een Demon Land are the base camps of the dragons and the Feng people. The other 2 forbidden lands, if nothing goes wrong, must be the base camp of some kind of divine beast. The strength of these 5 forbidden lands far surpasses the 4 continents." Qin Feiyong said, "Is there a problem?" The madman was suspicious. "There shouldn't be a problem." The white-eyed wolf followed and said. Qin Feiyong shook his head, took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "The problem is that we humans live in the eastern, western, northern and southern continents." "Yes." The madman nodded and asked puzzledly, "But what's the problem? Any one of the 5 forbidden lands can crush the 4 continents. Is there no problem? Do you know what this means? This means that we humans have no right to speak in the Sky Cloud realm. The ones who truly control the Sky Cloud realm are the 5 forbidden lands. Facing the 5 forbidden lands, we humans are as insignificant as ants. We can only be described as lowly." Qin Feiyong said. The madman and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but be shocked when they heard this. Although they had been in the Sky Cloud realm for so many years, they really didn't realize this point. Now that they heard Qin Feiyong say this, it really was the case. Putting aside all the grudges in the secular world, all humans belong to one race, and that is the human race. The human race, the dragons, the Feng people, the sea beasts, and the mysterious races of the other 2 forbidden lands. In other words, there are a total of 6 races in the Sky Cloud realm. The human race is the weakest among them. If one day in the future, the other 5 races want to make a move on the human race of the Sky Cloud realm will inevitably face the disaster of extinction. Such a scene, just thinking about it, Qin Feiyong, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. Chapter 3597. The white-eyed wolf said in surprise, "Do you think this is the young man's intention? He wants us to become the leaders of the human race and work hard to lead the human race to glory and fight against the 4 forbidden lands?" Qin Feiyong and madman were stunned. Become the leaders of the human race? They could fight against the 4 forbidden lands, but to become the leaders of the human race, this seemed to be giving them too much credit. Although they were quite strong now, they knew their limits. They didn't have the qualifications to become the leaders of the human race. However, perhaps this was the young man's intention. Headache. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't understand the young man's thoughts. Who cares? After all, we've already conquered the western, eastern, and southern continents. It won't take much time to conquer the northern continent. Madman chuckled. Qin Feiyong glanced at Madman and shook his head. I really don't have that ambition. It's just one more ally, one more way to survive. Let's make a trip to the Sky Palace and see what the giants of the Sky Palace want. But before he finished, boom! Terrifying auras suddenly exploded in the sky above the city. Qin Feiyong, Madman, and the white-eyed wolf were shocked. They immediately looked up and saw a dozen figures soar into the sky and surround Princess Huafeng and the others. The leader was a middle-aged man. He was about 1.9 meters tall and emitted a valiant aura. One of them was the guard that had escaped before. What are you doing? Daifuku and Xiaofu protected the siblings and looked at the dozen people with gloomy expressions. The guard pointed at the 4 people and said angrily, "City Lord. They're the ones who killed the guard commander." The middle-aged man's eyes darkened as he sized up Princess Huafeng and the others. 2 mere perfected dominators. 2 perfected dominators dared to kill the people of the city lord's mansion? They must be the Mas de Jura's accomplices. Capture them and interrogate them. We'll definitely find the Mas de Jura's whereabouts. A person beside the middle-aged man walked out, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. This was an old man in a black robe. He was emaciated and had sunken eyes. His eyes were like those of a snake, and they shone with a cold light. As the black-robed old man finished speaking, the others also erupted with powerful auras. Apart from the guard, all of them were perfection sovereign realm experts. If I tell you now that we're not the Mas de Jura's accomplices, you definitely won't believe me. Since that's the case, then let's cut the crap and bring it on. Pyrotechnic Glow glanced at the dozen or so people and sneered. Arrogant. The black-robed old man was furious. He waved his arm and shouted, "Take him down." The dozen or so people surrounding them immediately pounced on the 4 of them. You overestimate yourself. Daifuku snorted coldly and stretched out his arm. The surrounding space immediately collapsed and turned into ice fragments that emitted a monstrous sharpness. In just an instant, the bodies of more than 10 people were pierced by the ice fragments. They were like sieves as blood gushed out. The middle-aged man and the black-robed old man retreated in shock. The law of space-time, the ultimate profundity. They never expected that the other party was hiding an ultimate expert. Although Fengyuan City was the largest city in the northern continent, it was not the headquarters of the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, the city lord overseeing Fengyuan City was an ordinary perfection sovereign realm expert. How could an ordinary perfect sovereign realm expert not panic when facing a supreme expert who had grasped the supreme profundities of the space-time laws? When they came back to their senses, the middle-aged man and the black-robed old man turned around and began to flee without looking back. Daifuku's eyes were full of contempt. His large hand was like an eagle's claw as it grabbed in the direction the 2 of them fled. The void collapsed, and the law of space-time roared in all directions. The black-robed old man screamed and died on the spot. The middle-aged man stood there terrified. He trembled as if he was waiting for death. Daifuku would definitely not show mercy to those who wanted to harm Princess Huafeng and Pyrotechnic Glow. The law of space-time surged. The middle-aged man also screamed as his blood splattered in the sky. Seeing this scene, the people in the city below were dumbfounded. Even the city lord was killed without any hesitation. These people's guts were too big. Qin Feiyang, the middle-aged man, and the white-eyed wolf stepped on the air and landed beside Princess Huafeng and the other 3. The white-eyed wolf looked at the guard and asked, "Where is the Heavenly Palace?" Although this guard's cultivation was very weak, he had already retreated far away when the black-robed old man gave the order. Therefore he escaped death. Tian. The guard looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and stammered, unable to say a word for a long time. Obviously, he was deeply shocked by Daifuku's methods. Tian, your sister, hurry up or I'll kill you. The white-eyed wolf glared fiercely. The guard quivered and hurriedly told Qin Feiyang and the others the coordinates. After Qin Feiyang and the others left, the guard immediately collapsed in the void, cold sweat breaking out all over his body. Shouldn't they have escaped? Why are they still going to the Heavenly Palace? Isn't he a little too bold? They have mastered the law of space-time's supreme profundity. How can they not be bold? The law of space-time's supreme profundity is very strong, but can it be stronger than a sovereign weapon? Don't forget that the Heavenly Palace doesn't only have a sovereign weapon. The few big shots are also supreme existences who have mastered the law of space-time's supreme profundity. Running to the Heavenly Palace like this is a dead end. Also, are they the Mas de Jura's accomplices? Judging from your words, you seem to be very dissatisfied with the Mas de Jura. Am I? I'm just saying. Don't get agitated. Regardless of whether it's them or the Mas de Jura, regardless of whether they're in cahoots with the Mas de Jura, they're all good people. Everyone was discussing. From this, it could be seen that the Mas de Jura's reputation in the northern continent was quite good. It was actually a little hard to imagine. A Jura was usually the epitome of ruthlessness and cold-bloodedness, But now, the Mas de Jura was so respected by the people of the northern continent that it was more like the epitome of justice. Northern continent. Northern region. There was an endless stretch of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the mountains, the giant peaks pierced into the clouds like giant swords. The towering ancient trees appeared to be incomparably bold and vigorous. This place was called the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range. It was said that there were exactly 10,000 huge peaks here. In the central region of the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range, huge palaces floated in the sky. When one looked up, they were scattered all over like stars in the sky, shining with divine light and emitting a magnificent aura. In the center of the 10,000 Peaks Mountain Range, there was a huge peak that was thousands of feet tall. At the peak of the mountain, there was a stone staircase that led to the sky, leading to an ancient palace at the top of the sky. Next to the stone staircase that led to the sky, there was a stone tablet that was hundreds of feet tall. There were two big words engraved on it: Heavenly Palace. An old man was sitting cross-legged under the stone tablet. This person had white hair and a white beard. He was wearing a white robe and his eyes were slightly closed. He had a peaceful expression and exuded an immortal aura. Whoosh! Suddenly, a group of people landed in front of the huge peak. It was Qin Feiyong and the others. It's so grand? Looking at the heavenly palace in front of them, Qin Feiyong, the other two, and the white-eyed wolf were all shocked. Even First Princess Huafeng and the other three had a trace of surprise on their faces. This is the forbidden area of the heavenly palace. Please leave quickly. A hoarse voice sounded. The one who spoke was the white-robed old man at the peak of the mountain. However, he didn't open his eyes. His voice didn't have any killing intent, but it contained an irresistible majesty. This is an omnipotent expert. Daifuku looked at the white-robed old man and whispered, "An omnipotent expert?" Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned and couldn't help but look at the white-robed old man curiously. In the sky cloud realm, those who could be called omnipotent experts were only those who had mastered the ultimate profound. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Then can you tell if he has mastered the ultimate profound of an ordinary law, or the ultimate profound of an omnipotent law?" Daifuku shook his head. Before the power of the law was activated, no aura could be felt. So, only when the other party activated the law could they determine what kind of law the other party had mastered. Qin Feiyong landed on the peak of the mountain with a trace of respect on his face. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior, this junior has something to see the Heavenly Palace Master. I hope that senior can report to him." Madman and the others also landed beside Qin Feiyong. Looking at Qin Feiyong's humble attitude, the Daifuku brothers were quite impressed. With Qin Feiyong's current cultivation, even if this white-haired old man had mastered the ultimate profound of an omnipotent law, he didn't need to lower himself at all. Because of Qin Feiyong's strength, he could be called the number one person in the human race, so there was no problem even if he called the other party's name. But Qin Feiyong still regarded himself as a junior. From this, it could be seen that this was a very cultivated young man. The white-robed old man slowly opened his eyes and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyong and the others. Because Qin Feiyong and the others had deliberately concealed their aura, the white-haired old man couldn't see their depth. However, whether it was Qin Feiyong, the white-eyed wolf, or Princess Huafeng and the other three, they all exuded an extraordinary temperament. Moreover, their expressions were extremely calm. Although their expressions were humble, they weren't humble. One had to know. This was the Sky Palace. Normally, when one came here, not to mention being so calm, they probably didn't even have the courage to speak. But these people in front of him were neither humble nor overbearing and were calm. Their identities were definitely not simple. "You are." The white-robed old man was suspicious. "Junior." Qin Feiyong was about to speak. "Elder Wang, be careful." Suddenly, a cry of alarm sounded. 4 young men and women rushed over from afar and landed beside the white-robed old man. "What's wrong?" The white-robed old man looked at the 4 of them in confusion. These 4 people were all disciples of the Sky Palace. Their figures were tall and straight, and their auras were extraordinary. At this moment, the 4 of them coldly looked at Qin Feiyong and the others, and said in a deep voice, "Elder Wang, they just killed the city lord, the guard commander and others in Fengyuan City. Their methods are extremely ruthless." "It can't be." Elder Wang was surprised. We saw it with our own eyes. When we saw them asking for the coordinates of the Sky Palace, we immediately rushed back. I didn't expect that they would really come to our Sky Palace. After the four of them finished speaking, they looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and berated in a stern voice, "You guys are really bold. Not only did you kill the city lord and others in public, but you also came to the Sky Palace to cause trouble. Do you really think that the Sky Palace is a place where you can behave atrociously?" Chapter 3598. What? The white-robed old man's expression changed when he heard that. He looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and asked, "Is what they said true?" "That's right." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Elder Wang, did you see that?" He admitted it himself. "He's simply lawless," the four young men and women said angrily. Elder Wang looked at the four of them, then looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and asked, "Why did you kill them?" "You're a reasonable old man. You didn't attack them directly. Otherwise, you'd be lying on the ground as a corpse now." The madman chuckled. "How dare you? How dare you speak so arrogantly in front of Elder Wang? Do you know Elder Wang's identity in the Heavenly Palace?" The four young men shouted angrily. Princess Huafeng frowned and said with a smile, "Do you know who we are?" "You?" The four of them looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and sneered. "I don't care who you are. If you dare to provoke the Heavenly Palace, you'll die." "Very well." Princess Huafeng nodded. When the Daifuke brothers saw that, killing intent surged in their eyes. Qin Feiyong raised his arm and stopped the two of them. He looked at Elder Wang and said with a smile, "We're not here to cause trouble. Please help us report this to the Heavenly Palace." One of the young men shouted, "You killed the city governor and the others in front of everyone, and you're saying that you're not here to cause trouble? Are you kidding? You seem to have a lot to say. Do you think that we won't dare to teach you a lesson because you're backed by the Heavenly Palace?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "Try me if you dare." The young man looked at the white-eyed wolf provocatively. He did not believe that these people would dare to attack him here. The Heavenly Palace was above. The Heavenly Palace was the ruler of the northern continent. As a disciple of the Heavenly Palace, of course, he had the confidence. "Try me if you dare," the white-eyed wolf muttered. As the power of law appeared, he instantly appeared in front of the four young men. "This is..." Elder Wang's eyes narrowed. He looked at the four of them and shouted, "Retreat." But it was too late. The white-eyed wolf swung its claws, and the four of them immediately let out a miserable cry. Their bodies exploded in the void, and their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Only their souls were left. Elder Wang. The four divine souls panicked and hid behind Elder Wang. Their faces were filled with fear. "This is the first time I've met someone who took the initiative to ask for a beating. Now that I've made my move, what next?" The white-eyed wolf stood opposite Elder Wang and looked at the four of them mockingly. The four of them were terrified. He had never imagined that the other party would be so bold as to brazenly make a move in the Sky Palace. Elder Wang glanced at the white-eyed wolf before looking at Qin Feiyong and the others. There was a hint of fear in his eyes as he said, "Even a cat has mastered the supreme profundity of the law of time. You must be extraordinary." "What?" "It actually grasps the supreme profundity of the laws of time." The divine souls of the four young men and women could not help but tremble. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "Senior, you'll know who we are later. Now please report to the Sky Palace. Otherwise, we'll have to force our way into the Sky Palace." "There's no need for that. We're here in person." As soon as Qin Feiyong finished speaking, a cold voice was heard above the Sky Palace. Qin Feiyong and the others raised their heads and saw two men and a woman descending from the sky like three divine kings. Their auras were unfathomable. The woman leading the group was around 30 years old. She was wearing a palace dress and had taken good care of herself. There was not a single wrinkle at the corner of her eyes. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and there was a great sense of authority between her brows. Behind her were two middle-aged men. One was wearing a white robe while the other was wearing a black robe. They both looked to be in their 30s. The white-robed middle-aged man had a slender figure and a gentle smile on his face. Coupled with his elegant temperament, he gave off a harmless feeling. The black-robed middle-aged man was like a sharp sword. emitting a threatening aura. His dark eyes, in particular, were filled with a piercing sharpness. Greetings, Lord Temple Masters. Lord Temple Masters, you must uphold justice for your disciples. The 4 young men and women immediately ran over and knelt in front of the 3, looking aggrieved. You may leave. The woman in the palace dress waved her hand. The 4 stood up and retreated to the side. Then they looked at Qin Feiyong and the others with resentment in their eyes. Why are you all here? Elder Wang turned to the 3 of them and asked. The woman in the palace dress said calmly, an ultimate powerhouse who has grasped the supreme profundity of the laws of time has arrived in the northern continent. How can we not come out to see for ourselves? Obviously, they had already received news of what happened in Fengyuan City. The laws of time? Elder Wang could not help but be stunned. He turned to the white-eyed wolf and frowned. Isn't it the laws of time? That's not it. The woman in the palace dress raised her head and looked at Daifuku. A cold glint flashed in her eyes as she smiled. Your Excellency is really impressive in Fengyuan City. You killed the people of the Heavenly Palace just like that. Daifuku said calmly, I've already warned them. They were the ones who asked for it. So, it's our fault for killing the people of the Heavenly Palace? Now that you've come to the Heavenly Palace, do you want us to apologize to you? The woman in the palace dress asked. I'm not interested in the Heavenly Palace. It's not my idea to come to the Heavenly Palace. It's Qin. Daifuku was about to say Qin Feiyong's name, but he suddenly realized that Qin Feiyong was deliberately hiding his identity. So, he changed his words and said, It's this brother who wants to come to the Heavenly Palace. For a moment Elder Wang, the woman in the palace dress, and the 2 middle-aged men all looked at Qin Feiyong. May I ask who the 3 seniors are? Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and asked with a smile. The middle-aged man in black's eyes turned cold as he shouted without mercy, You're not qualified to know our identity. Qin Feiyong was stunned. There was no need to be so arrogant. Swoosh! Suddenly, 2 figures appeared out of thin air on the side of the mountain peak. Qin Feiyong turned his head and frowned slightly. It was the guard from before and the old man from the jewelry store. A cold light flashed in the madman's eyes as he looked at the guard and said, What did you do to the old man? Facing the madman's gaze, the fear on the guard's face became even stronger. The old man also had a face of fear. We ordered him to bring it here. The middle-aged man in black said, What do you mean? The madman looked at the middle-aged man in black and asked, Not long ago, when the subordinate sent us a message to report this matter, we already asked in detail. The cause of this matter is the death of his grandson. We just want to know, why are you so sure that it was the other 2 disciples of the Heavenly Palace who attacked his grandson? The woman in the palace dress said. On what basis? On the basis that we can read their thoughts. The madman said. Read their memories? Let's not talk about whether you have such means or not. In this situation, your side of the story has no credibility. Because no one knows the truth. In other words, even if you really read their memories, it doesn't prove that what you said is true. The woman in the palace dress said indifferently. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, The key is that we didn't lie. The middle-aged man in black said with disdain, If you say you didn't lie, then you didn't lie. May I ask who you are? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Sirs, please be clear about this. These little brothers are really not lying. It's true that they were tempted by money and sneak attacked my grandson. They even came to blackmail this old man. When the old man saw that Qin Feiyong and the others were wronged, he quickly looked at the woman in the palace dress and pointed at Elder Wang, saying anxiously, During this period, I came to the Heavenly Palace several times, but I was stopped by this lord. He doesn't believe my words. Elder Wang sighed, If you have evidence, this old man will definitely stand up for you. But if you can't, what can this old man do? I can't let you enter the Heavenly Palace to mess around. That's the truth. If you don't believe me, I swear to the heavens. If there's even half a lie, I'll be destroyed by the heavens and die a horrible death. The old man was burning with anxiety. Teske. Who wouldn't swear? In my opinion, it's nothing more than the death of his grandson and no one to take care of him. So, he wants to extort some money to solve the problem of his retirement in the future. As for these people, They must be the accomplices he invited to put on this show with him. The four young men and women looked at the old man and Qin Feiyong with sneers on their faces. White-eyed wolf, kill them. Qin Feiyong's eyes turned cold. His physical body had already been destroyed by the white-eyed wolf, but he still didn't know how to restrain himself. It seemed that he wouldn't shed tears until he saw the coffin. I've been waiting for you to say that. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. He activated the moment of time and appeared behind the four people in an instant, slapping out with his claws. How dare you? The middle-aged man in black was furious. But the white-eyed wolf turned a deaf ear to him. As his claws fell, the four people screamed and their divine souls were annihilated on the spot. Following that, the white-eyed wolf looked at the middle-aged man in black with disdain. He activated the moment of time and instantly landed on Qin Feiyong's shoulder. You're courting death. The middle-aged man in black's eyes surged with killing intent. A wave of the law of destruction emerged and rushed toward the white-eyed wolf. You're the ones courting death. The madman's killing intent erupted. He activated the law of destruction and blasted out. Boom! The two's law of destruction collided with a loud bang. A terrifying wave instantly swept out in all directions. The guard and the old man had a look of horror on their faces. This was the fluctuation of the law of destruction. Moreover, it was from two perfected sovereigns. How could small fries like them withstand it? However, at the same time, the Daifuku brothers took action and forcefully suppressed the fluctuation. Seeing this scene, not only the guard and the old man, but even the woman in palace attire, the middle-aged man in white, and Elder Wang heaved a sigh of relief. If this fluctuation were to spread out, the entire Myriad Peak Mountain would probably be razed to the ground. But then, the woman in palace attire, the middle-aged man in white, and Elder Wang couldn't help but look at the madman. Law of destruction. Who exactly were these people? One controlled the law of space and time. One controlled the law of time. One controlled the law of destruction. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and looked at the woman in palace attire and the other three. He sighed and said, We really have no intention of causing trouble, so please don't be so aggressive. The woman in palace attire glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others, then looked at the old man who was caught by the guard. Finally, she looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Then tell us, why should we believe your words? If you can't explain it clearly, then don't even think about leaving the heavenly palace alive today. As the woman in palace attire's voice fell, a reddish gold bead appeared. It was the size of a baby's fist. There were complicated and mysterious patterns engraved on it. It looked like the totem of a divine beast, the golden crow, and its divine light illuminated the world. As soon as this divine bead appeared, the pressure of a sovereign divine weapon rolled out and instantly enveloped Qin Feiyong and the others. Obviously, this was the sovereign divine weapon of the heavenly palace. Why? Qin Feiyong glanced at the reddish gold divine bead without the slightest fear. Then, he looked at the woman in palace attire and a terrifying pressure gradually emerged from his body. He said word by word, because I, Qin Feiyong, am called Sovereign Divine Weapon. Chapter 3599. Qin Feiyong. As soon as these three words came out, the eyes of the leaders of the heavenly palace trembled. The guards and the old man not far away were also shocked. If one were to talk about who was the most famous in the current Sky Cloud realm, it would undoubtedly be Qin Feiyong. He was someone who had destroyed the Blood Palace, crushed the first prince of the dragons, killed the fire dragon, and looked down on all the heroes in the world. There were countless young talents in the world who were unreachable and dazzling in front of others, but in front of Qin Feiyong, they had to lower their proud heads. You could not know who the leaders of the heavenly palace were, and you could not know the existence of the dragons and the Feng people, but you could not know the name Qin Feiyong. Just based on the three words I Qin Feiyong, these three words definitely had the power to convince everyone. However, the person in front of them looked completely different from Qin Feiyong. At the same time, many people walked out of the palaces floating in the sky. There were disciples and managers of the heavenly palace. At this moment they were all looking down at Qin Feiyong and the others. After all, even the sovereign divine weapon had appeared. How could they not be alarmed? Their faces were also filled with shock. Is this person really Qin Feiyong? He looks so impressive. You haven't seen Qin Feiyang before? Even if you haven't seen him, you should have seen his portrait. His portrait is circulating everywhere now. Take a look, I have a portrait of him here. A young woman waved her hand and a scroll painting appeared. It floated in the void and then slowly opened. The eyes of the surrounding people were focused on the scroll painting. They were filled with anticipation. Soon, the scroll painting opened and two people and a wolf appeared. The person on the left was a young man in white. He was 7 feet tall and his black hair was like a waterfall. His eyes were bright like the moon and he had a faint smile on his face. He was like a god and exuded an ethereal aura. The person on the right was a black-clothed youth. His facial features were grave and stern, and there was an invisible bone-piercing sharpness that made people feel a sense of fear in their hearts. A wolf was lying in front of the two of them. This wolf's fur was as dazzling as gold. There were 2 golden wings on its back, and there was a mysterious flame mark between its eyebrows. It looked incomparably majestic. Did you see that? This white-clothed youth is Qin Feiyang. This black-clothed youth is Madman Mo. The wolf lying in front of them is the golden-winged wolf king. Look at those people down there. Which one looks like them? When the young woman opened the scroll and spoke, she looked at the figure in the picture with stars in her eyes. Hearing this, everyone looked down. Indeed, there was no one who looked like Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, or Golden-Winged Wolf King. Aren't they a little too bold? They even dare to pretend to be Qin Feiyang. It seems that they don't know Qin Feiyang's methods. Some people couldn't help but sneer. Below, at the peak of the mountain, there was dead silence. Suddenly, the black-clothed middle-aged man opened his mouth and broke the silence. Do you think we have never seen Qin Feiyang before? But before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang directly took out a facial restoration pill and threw it into his mouth. Very quickly, under everyone's surprised gaze, his true appearance was restored. It's really him. The black-clothed middle-aged man's gaze trembled. It's really Qin Feiyang. So he changed his appearance before. Come and see. The famous Qin Feiyang of the Sky Cloud realm has come to our Sky Palace. What? Qin Feiyang has come to our Sky Palace? Impossible. How could such a big shot like him come to our Sky Palace? I'm not lying to you. It's really him. Previously, there were still many disciples who had not come out of seclusion. When they heard the news, they all ran out in disbelief. In the end, it was really this famous existence. Since Qin Feiyang is here, then are Madman Mo and the Golden-Winged Wolf King also here? Wait. The big fat cat on Qin Feiyang's shoulder has activated the supreme profound of the law of time. And the young man next to it has also activated the law of destruction. It is said that the Golden-Winged Wolf King has mastered the law of time, and Madman Mo has also mastered the law of destruction. Could it be the two of them? The eyes of the disciples in the sky fell on the madman and the white-eyed wolf. The madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and smiled. The madman took a facial restoration pill, and the white-eyed wolf's entire body also emitted a dazzling golden light. Soon, they also restored their true appearances. As expected, the disciples of the Sky Palace couldn't help but become excited. This was their idol. Qin Feiyang, who has mastered the supreme profound of 2 supreme laws, has the eye of heaven that can replicate some attacks, and has a supreme killing technique comparable to a sovereign divine weapon, slaughter domain. The madman, who has an arrogant and unruly personality, also has mastered the supreme profound of 2 supreme laws, and also has a heaven-defying battle soul. He has the ability to reach the heavens. The Golden-Winged Wolf King, this guy is even more ridiculously strong. He has actually mastered the supreme profound of 5 supreme laws. These 2 people and 1 wolf can be said to be the current Sky Cloud realm's existence. Even the giants of the older generation of the various continents have to bow their heads in front of them. Can be said that they are already standing at the peak of the 4 continents, and no one can shake them. I didn't expect them to be so popular in the human world. Daifuku transmitted his voice. What's so great about them? Princess Huafeng pursed her lips. Daifuku laughed and transmitted his voice. Then do we have to restore our original appearances? You want to steal their limelight? Princess Huafeng secretly asked. Daifuku was slightly taken aback and hurriedly said, "This old man has never thought of that." Princess Huafeng rolled her eyes at him and raised her head to look at the disciples of Sky Palace above. Are these humans fools? They actually treat these three wicked people as their idols? After a while, the woman in palace attire finally came back to her senses and cupped her hands with a smile. So it's Brother Qin, Brother Emo, and Brother Wolf King. Sorry for the disrespect. Don't say such polite words. If it weren't for you forcing us, would we have revealed our true appearances? It's really hard to keep a low profile. How about it, do you believe me now? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Since it's the three of you, then it must be true. The woman in palace attire smiled and put away the golden divine pearl. What a joke. The madman alone has 8 sovereign divine weapons, and the Sky Palace only has 1 sovereign divine weapon. Isn't it showing off in front of an expert? Fortunately, these people are more reasonable, otherwise Sky Palace would be in big trouble this time. For example, if people like the Prince and Princess Dragons dared to offend them, they would definitely raise Sky Palace to the ground. So it's them who helped me. The old man who was caught by the guard muttered to himself. He had long heard that these 2 people and 1 wolf were kind and sincere. Now that he saw them, they were indeed worthy of their reputation. Good people. At the same time, the guard was also terrified to the extreme. He had actually provoked these 3 ferocious people again and again. Isn't this courting death? The madman stared at the guard and shouted, "Why aren't you letting go of that old man?" The guard quivered and quickly let go of the old man. He knelt in the air and said, "3 lords, please spare me. I really didn't know it was you. Otherwise, even if I had 100 guts, I wouldn't dare to do this." Scram. The madman waved his hand and the guard immediately scrambled to the side. "Old man, are you all right?" The madman stepped forward and helped the old man up. "I'm fine. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Lord Qin. Thank you, Lord Wolf King. Or it's you who helped my grandson clear his name. Thank you very much." The old man knelt in the air and kowtowed repeatedly. "This is what we should do." The white-eyed wolf stepped forward and waved his claw. A large pile of soul stones and divine crystals appeared, like 2 mountains. There were at least tens of millions of them. He then opened a space-time passage and said, "These soul stones and divine crystals are enough for you to retire. Go back first." "Quite generous," Princess Huafeng muttered. "I can't accept this." The old man didn't accept it and quickly waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows and said, "I told you to accept it, so accept it. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Are you looking for a beating?" Hearing this, Princess Huafeng and the others were speechless. Even the gifts they gave were so overbearing. The old man glanced at Qin Feiyong and the madman. Seeing their kind smiles, he nodded and said, "Thank you, Lord Wolf King. This old man will forever remember your kindness today." Saying so, he put away the soul stones and divine crystals and turned to enter the space-time passage. "You can leave too." The white-eyed wolf looked at the guard. Yes. The guard nodded and turned to run for his life. Elder Wang saw everything and said with a hoarse laugh, "The 3 of you respect your elders. This old man admires your righteousness." The white-eyed wolf joked, "Now, do you still say that we are the Mas de Jura's accomplices?" The woman and the other 3 looked at each other with awkward expressions. Before, they really thought that this group of people was the Mas de Jura's accomplices. The woman smiled and said, "Since you've come to the heavenly palace, please come in and have a seat so that we can play host to you." The madman said, "That's no problem. But until now, we still don't know who it is." The woman patted her head and said apologetically, "Sorry, I'll introduce you." The woman pointed at the middle-aged man in white and said with a smile, "This is our Sky Palace's Vice Palace Master." The middle-aged man in white smiled gently at Qin Feiyong and the others. The woman pointed at the middle-aged man in black and said, "And this is our Sky Palace's Law Enforcement Palace Master." The young man in black looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and cupped his hands. "I hope you can forgive my previous offense." Qin Feiyong waved his hand. The woman looked at Elder Wang and said with a smile, "This old man is our Sky Palace's Grand Elder." Elder Wang also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "I hope you can forgive my offense." Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He looked at the woman and said, "Senior, you are the Sky Palace's Palace Master?" "Yes." The woman nodded and said, "But I don't dare to call you senior. Your current strength is already above us. Logically speaking, we should be the ones calling you lords. At least you know your place." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The woman in the court dress did not get angry. She stepped aside and said respectfully, "Please." Qin Feiyang and the others were about to take a step forward, but at this moment, a voice full of hostility sounded. "So it's the famous Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wing Wolf King." Chapter 3600. This voice. Qin Feiyang and the others narrowed their eyes and turned to look at the source of the voice. Although they had only heard this cold voice once, it left a deep impression on them. It was the Mas de Jura. The four great heads and the people in the sky hall all looked in the direction of the voice as their eyes flickered with a cold glint. The Mas de Jura was no stranger to the entire northern continent, especially those in the sky hall. The Mas de Jura was like a nightmare that haunted them. Once they stepped out of the sky hall, they had to be careful at all times because no one knew when the Mas de Jura would appear behind them. Not far away, in the mountains, a black figure stepped into the sky step by step. His aura carried a ferocious aura, and the skull-shaped mask on his face was particularly eye-catching. "It's indeed you, arrogant bastard. How dare you barge into my myriad peak mountain? Die!" The Sky Hall's law enforcement hallmaster's eyes surged with killing intent as a terrifying aura covered the sky. However, the Mas de Jura was not affected by this aura at all. His dark eyes were filled with disgust and indifference as he walked to the void not far from the peak of the mountain. He stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf. "This guy is quite powerful." The white-eyed wolf muttered. "Yes, perfect sovereign realm cultivation. Moreover, he's not afraid of the Sky Hall's overlords at all. To have such confidence, it means that he might have grasped a supreme profundity." The madman's eyes were filled with curiosity. What kind of face was hidden under this mask? Faced with the Mas de Jura's silent attitude, the law enforcement hall master was furious and shouted, "How arrogant!" Boom! A wave of death law roared out. A dark red light instantly appeared in this world as a waning moon slowly rose. The aura of death enveloped the surroundings. Death Law's supreme profundity. Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed. How much hatred did he have for the Mas de Jura to activate the supreme profundity right from the start? The Mas de Jura looked at the black-clothed middle-aged man and sneered. "Are you in such a hurry to kill me because you're afraid that I'll expose your evil deeds?" Evil deeds? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. What did he mean? The four overlords of the Sky Hall were puzzled when they heard him. The law enforcement hallmaster frowned and said, "What do you mean? Speak clearly." "What do I mean? You don't know?" The Mas de Jura sneered. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Do you know why I specifically kill the Heavenly Palace's disciples?" The disciples of the Heavenly Hall in the sky were also puzzled because they. But as the ruler of the northern continent, not only did the Sky Hall not deal with him impartially, but they even took him in as a disciple and protected him in the Sky Hall. The Mas de Jura roared with righteous indignation. He looked at Qin Feiyang, the Mas de Jura, and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Don't you think they should be condemned for doing such a thing? Is that so?" Qin Feiyang and the others looked at the four overlords of the Sky Hall when they heard him. The four of them remained silent. Nothing to say? The Mas de Jura laughed coldly, and then he raised his head to look at the disciples of the Sky Hall and said, "All of you should be aware of this demon, right? We know. However, back then, Lord Palace Master personally said that this man had already been executed." All the disciples in the Sky Hall were puzzled. "Seems like you have been deceived by them. This person is not dead. Saying that he has been executed is just a lie to deceive the world. In fact, he is now cultivating in seclusion somewhere in the Sky Hall. Moreover, I know that your temple master has taken him in as a disciple and personally taught him cultivation." The Mas de Jura roared. "Impossible! Don't slander our temple master." The Sky Hall disciples said angrily. "Slander?" The Mas de Jura sneered. "I have no enmity with her. Is there a need to slander her?" The madman frowned and looked at the Mas de Jura. He asked in confusion, "What is going on? Can you be more clear?" The Master Jura took a deep breath and looked at the two people and the wolf. He sighed. Back then, a person called Qin Feng appeared in the northern continent out of thin air. This person's methods were extremely ruthless. He killed millions of people in a day, and even wiped out a city with hundreds of thousands of people. What? Not to mention Qin Feiyang, the Master Jura, and the white-eyed wolf, even Princess Huafeng and the others were shocked. You didn't see the bloody scene. It was simply outrageous. He didn't even let go of newborn babies. The most terrifying thing is that this person not only killed innocent people, but also absorbed their flesh and divine souls, leaving behind white bones. It is said that he can use this method to speed up his growth. The Master Jura said in a deep voice. What? Qin Feiyang, the Master Jura, and the white-eyed wolf's eyes shook. Absorbing the flesh and divine souls of others. Wasn't this the same method as Li Feng? Qin Feng Li Feng? Could it be the same person? According to my investigation, in just 2 years he has killed hundreds of millions of people. In just 2 years, he crazily absorbed the flesh and blood of others and went from the half-step ninth heaven realm to the peak imperishable realm. This world focuses on cultivation. Whether it's humans or other creatures, they all have to cultivate. However, this kind of inhumane cultivation method is the behavior of an animal. The Master Jura roared, his face filled with grief and anger. No way! He went from the half-step ninth heaven realm to the peak imperishable realm in 2 years. Hearing this, even Princess Huafeng and the others were shocked. That was 2 whole realms. Even a monster that didn't appear in 10,000 years would need hundreds of thousands or millions of years. But this person only used 2 years? Was this a joke? The white-eyed wolf asked little Qin Zi. Do you remember the last time you saw Li Feng? What was his cultivation level? I remember that the last time I saw him was outside the forest of gods and demons. Didn't many people die in my hands back then? I heard Xueling say that Li Feng could enter the ninth heaven realm after absorbing their flesh and blood. This means that before entering the 4th level, his cultivation level should be around the half-step ninth heaven realm. Qin Feiyang guessed. The Madzi said in surprise, so this Qin Feng might be Li Feng? That shouldn't be. Didn't we ask the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to investigate Li Feng's whereabouts? If it's really Li Feng, it's impossible for the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to not have any information. Qin Feiyang frowned. The Madzi said. Then what if he changed his appearance? After all, he changed his name. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly as he turned to the Master Jura and asked, Do you know what this Qin Feng looks like? I do. The Master Jura nodded. With a wave of his hand, a phantom condensed. It was a silver-haired youth with an ordinary appearance. Not Li Feng? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. But we can't be sure that he's not Li Feng. After all, we said before that he might have changed his appearance. We have to see him in person to be sure. The Madzi said. Then what if it's really Li Feng? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. Towards Li Feng, he had a very complicated feeling in his heart. Because the Li Feng in the past was very pure and kind, but after the dragon slaughtered the Cloud Mountain village, seeing his family fall one by one in front of him, coupled with the temptation of the blood ancestor, he gradually turned into a demon king. But, if this Qin Feng was really Li Feng, then he had slaughtered hundreds of millions of lives in the northern continent. Such a sin, if Qin Feiyang sat by and did nothing, his conscience would be condemned. Originally, the Master Jura spoke again. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked up. When I heard that Qin Feng had been executed, I also thought it was true. But not long after, I suddenly found out that Qin Feng didn't die at all. Not only did he not die, he was even accepted as a disciple by the Sky Palace Master and was secretly protected. This kind of heinous criminal, even a person with a little bit of conscience can't let him get away scot-free. However, the Sky Palace has the 4 giants and the sovereign divine weapon. I can't kill my way into the Sky Palace, so I can only kill the disciples of the Sky Palace outside. But the disciples of the Sky Palace who died in my hands all deserve to die. They bullied people outside and committed all kinds of crimes. I can't bear to see them like that. So, although my hands are stained with blood, I have never killed a good person. Originally, I planned to continue like this and slowly find a chance to kill Qin Feng. But just a while ago I saw you in Fengyuan City. Although you looked very ordinary on the surface, you dared to openly kill the city lord and others in Fengyuan City. I think your identity should not be simple. So I have been secretly following you. As expected, you are Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wings Wolf King. When I saw that it was you, I saw hope, so I took the initiative to come out and tell you everything. Because you have the ability to seek justice for those innocent lives that died tragically. The masked Azura said. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and the white-eyed wolf heard this and were moved. Although this man was known as Azura, everything he did was for the sake of justice. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your trust in us. We will investigate this matter clearly. I believe in you. That's all I have to say. We will meet again if fate allows." The masked Azura cupped his hands and smiled, then turned around and left without looking back. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the black-clothed middle-aged man. He was about to chase after him, but Madman took a step forward and stopped the black-clothed middle-aged man. He frowned and said, "He did not do anything wrong. What qualifications do you have to chase after him?" Chapter 3601. But, the black-clothed man raised his eyebrows. But what? Could it be that he exposed you guys in front of everyone and made you guys angry? The madman sneered as he glanced at the four leaders of the Sky Palace. When the four magnates heard this, they could not help but lower their heads, showing a guilty conscience. I really didn't expect the Sky Palace to do such a thing. Let's go. Bring us to see this Qin Feng. I want to see how capable he is to make the four of you willing to risk universal condemnation to protect him. The madman sneered. This Qin Feng might be Li Feng, so he naturally had to investigate. Actually, we also cherish talents. Although he did commit heinous crimes in the past, he has turned over a new leaf. The woman in palace attire sighed. Since they had been exposed, there was no need to hide it anymore. As soon as this was said, the disciples of the Sky Palace above were in an uproar. What the Master Azura said was actually true. Was this how the palace master and the others dealt with evil people? It was too disappointing. Even if we cherish talents, we can't go against the entire world. Lead the way. Qin Feiyang sighed. If it was really Li Feng, he could only kill him to get rid of evil for the people. Because this was no longer a small sin, but a heinous sin. Back in the Nether King's hell, he had already given Li Feng a chance. He didn't expect that not only did Li Feng not listen, he even became worse. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. Under the lead of the four leaders, Qin Feiyang and the others stepped into the Sky Palace. The magnificent palace was like a small island floating in the clouds. At a glance, it was as if the ancient Sky Palace had reappeared in the world, filled with an ethereal aura. The gazes of all the disciples in the Sky Hall gathered on Qin Feiyang's group. Their eyes were filled with admiration. After a while, the group arrived in the sky above a palace. This palace was relatively old and there wasn't a single person around. It was extremely quiet. Moreover, with the cultivation of Qin Feiyang and the others, they could see that there was a time array around the palace. He's in the palace. The woman hesitated for a moment before sighing. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf took a step forward and rushed toward the main hall. However, before he could get close, a barrier appeared in front of the white-eyed wolf. White-eyed wolf was surprised. This was a barrier condensed from the power of laws, and it was filled with boundless vitality. Qin Feiyang and Madman also looked at the barrier suspiciously. Suddenly, their gazes trembled. This was the law of life. Because the mermaid princess also grasped the law of life, it was easy for her to tell. The law of life, in other words, one of the four overlords of the Sky Hall had mastered the law of life. Who laid this? The white-eyed wolf quivered and turned to look at the four leaders. Not long ago, it had been discussing with Qin Feiyang that the last law would be the law of life. It hadn't expected to encounter it so soon. It's me. The woman in palace attire spoke. With a wave of her hand, the barrier dissipated. The white-eyed wolf stared at the woman in palace attire, and his eyes emitted a green light. This gaze made the woman in palace attire panic. What did this wolf cub want to do? Suddenly, The aura of the law of life emerged from the main hall. Qin Feiyong, madman, and the white-eyed wolf regained their senses and looked at the main hall in surprise. This is the aura of the law of space-time. Quickly go in. He might be trying to escape. Madman shouted. The white-eyed wolf rushed to the front of the main hall and smashed the door with one claw. Inside the main hall there was a space-time passage. The back of a silver-haired young man had already stepped into the space-time passage and was about to disappear. Stop! The white-eyed wolf shouted. However, the silver-haired young man turned a deaf ear and didn't turn back. Still want to run? The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed coldly. He activated instant time and instantly rushed into the passage. Quickly follow. Qin Feiyong's eyes darkened. He didn't expect Qin Feng to have mastered the law of space-time. However, when he and Madman rushed to the space-time passage, the passage collapsed. He ran without seeing us. What is he afraid of? Madman frowned and looked at Qin Feiyong. Could he really be Li Feng? Could it be that the young man's purpose in the northern continent is actually Li Feng? Qin Feiyong remained silent. The four leaders of the Sky Palace looked at each other. Who was Li Feng? Suddenly, Qin Feiyong looked at the four leaders and asked, where could he have gone? The four of them shook their heads. Is there anyone else with him? Qin Feiyong asked again. No, it's just him. The woman in palace attire said. Just him? Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. If it was really Li Feng, then where was the remnant soul of the blood progenitor? Li Feng and Blood Spirit had always been together. Since Li Feng was in the northern continent, Blood Spirit should also be in the northern continent. Will the white-eyed wolf be in danger? Princess Huafeng asked. He shouldn't be. After all, he has mastered the supreme profundity of the 5 supreme laws. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at his sister meaningfully, then turned to the 4 leaders and asked, what's Qin Feng's cultivation level? Greater Mastery Ruler. The woman in palace attire replied. Just a Greater Mastery Ruler. He's definitely not a match for the wolf cub. Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Princess Huafeng and chuckled. His sister, who had always been arrogant, was actually worried about the white-eyed wolf? It was really strange. White continent. At the edge of the northwest, there was an endless glacier here. Snow was falling from the sky, and the cold wind was blowing. It was cold to the bone. This place. It was one of the 4 forbidden areas, the Death Glacier. Buzz. Accompanied by a buzzing sound, a space-time passage appeared above the entrance. A silver-haired young man rushed out like lightning and entered the Death Glacier without looking back. When he entered the Death Glacier, he raised his hand and waved it. A surge of divine power surged out and blasted at the space-time passage behind him. At this moment the white-eyed wolf appeared. Although it was blasted by the divine power, it was not injured at all. After all, its current physical body had already reached the supreme level. However, the space-time passage behind it collapsed on the spot. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws, and the fluctuations that filled the void dissipated. It scanned the front and immediately saw the silver-haired young man who had entered the Death Glacier. This seems to be the Death Glacier? You're really bold. The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. It activated Instant of Light and directly entered the Death Glacier. Its speed was not something that the silver-haired young man could compare to. In just a few blinks of an eye, the white-eyed wolf was in front of the silver-haired young man. It turned to look at the silver-haired young man. It was a young man in his 20s with an ordinary appearance. He did not resemble Li Feng at all. The silver-haired young man also stopped in the void and said in a deep voice, "Why are you chasing me? I should be the one asking you this question. You haven't even seen us and you've already run away. I really want to know what you're afraid of." The white-eyed wolf sneered. The silver-haired young man said calmly, "I didn't run away because I have something to do in the Death Glacier. So this is a coincidence?" The white-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly. "It is a coincidence. If there's nothing else, don't stop me." After saying that, the silver-haired young man bypassed the white-eyed wolf and continued to fly deeper. Looking at the silver-haired young man's back, the white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered. Suddenly it waved its claws and the space-time laws rolled out. The void within a radius of several million miles immediately collapsed and turned into a giant ice crystal sword. It slashed at the silver-haired young man with the power to destroy the world. Ultimate profundity. The silver-haired young man was shocked. He stood in the void for a while and suddenly turned to look at the white-eyed wolf and said angrily, "Don't force me." "So what if I force you?" The white-eyed wolf sneered. Hearing this, the silver-haired young man's eyes suddenly emitted a blood-red light. It was as if he had turned into another person in an instant. The evil aura around him roared in all directions. This aura, this gaze, the white-eyed wolf's eyes trembled and said angrily, "So it's you, you little bastard. I've been so low-key. Why do you still want to find me?" The silver-haired young man roared and a shocking murderous aura rushed out of his body. The sky suddenly turned into a sea of blood. Bolts of blood-red lightning roared in the clouds like blood pythons, emitting an aura that could destroy the world. What a powerful fluctuation. Isn't that the golden-winged wolf king? It's really him. Why did he come to the Death Glacier? Who is that silver-haired young man opposite him? He has mastered the ultimate profundity of the law of slaughter. Wait, he looks a little familiar. I remember now. He's Qin Feng, the great demon who slaughtered countless creatures in the early years. Isn't he dead? Why is he still alive? The fluctuations from the battle between the white-eyed wolf and Li Feng alarmed the creatures in the surroundings. They all looked over with eyes full of shock. The entrance here was in the northern continent, so the people who came here to train were basically from the northern continent. Therefore, they all recognized Li Feng. Ultimate profundity. The white-eyed wolf raised his head and looked at the rolling blood-red lightning in the sky. He was also extremely shocked. This kid has already comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of slaughter? That's too fast. Although Qin Feiyang had given him some pills to open the door of potential, his comprehension and potential shouldn't be so terrifying. One had to know. Right now, Li Feng's cultivation was only at the sovereign stage. Crack. Rumble. Bolts of blood-red lightning poured down like a waterfall. Heaven and earth trembled as a terrifying murderous aura enveloped the surroundings. Do you think your wings have hardened just because you comprehended the ultimate profundity? The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. The ice crystal sword formed by the void fragment furiously slashed out, annihilating the blood-red lightning that filled the sky on the spot. Li Feng spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated repeatedly. This brother knows that little Qin Zi can't bear to kill you. Otherwise, you would have already died in the Nether King's hell. So, while little Qin Zi isn't here, this brother will directly eliminate you to prevent you from harming the Sky Cloud realm. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The ice crystal sword carried a sharpness that could tear the heavens and earth apart as it slashed towards Li Feng. A trace of fear suddenly appeared in Li Feng's eyes. He hysterically roared, "When I first came to the Sky Cloud realm, I did indeed slaughter many creatures. However, ever since I stepped into the sovereign stage, I have not harmed a single person. Why won't you let me go? Moreover, do you really think I want to do this? If there were other shortcuts, I wouldn't have harmed those innocent creatures. I just want to become stronger and find Long Zun's family to avenge the villagers of Cloud Mountain Village. Am I wrong?" Li Feng roared again and again. Although so many years had passed, the hatred in his heart had not decreased. Instead, it had become even more intense. The white-eyed wolf waved its paw and the ice crystal sword stopped above Li Feng's head. It looked at the ferocious Li Feng opposite it with its brows tightly knitted together. Chapter 3602. Why are you looking at me like that? Did I say anything wrong? Li Feng glared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf took a deep breath and sighed. You're not wrong. No matter who it is in this world, everything they do is to become stronger. However, there are other ways to become stronger. It's not the only way to kill the innocent. But this is a shortcut. You know my talent. Even if Qin Dage helps me open the door to my potential, I can't surpass Long Zun, let alone surpass Long Chun. I have to do this, Li Feng said. You know Long Chun too? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. Of course I know. Although you don't know where I am all these years, I've been paying attention to your situation all the time. Because in the Sky Cloud realm you are my only family. No, you are my only family in this world. Therefore, I know clearly about the battle between Qin Dage, the first prince of the dragons, and the fire dragon on White Crane Island. Li Feng said. Only family, the white-eyed wolf murmured. No matter how much Li Feng changed, his feelings for them had never changed. He still respected them, loved them and regarded them as family. Brother Wolf. I know that I've sinned deeply and it'll be difficult to wash away my sins. Don't worry, after I kill the dragons and avenge my family in Cloud Village, I'll atone for my sins with my death. Li Feng clenched his fists. Why do you have to do this? Hatred has completely blinded your heart. Moreover, the people who slaughtered Cloud Village have already been executed. The dragons of the ancient realm have also been wiped out. You should be relieved. Now let go of everything and come back with me. As long as you sincerely repent, I believe that whether it's little Qinzi or little lunatic, they will forgive you, protect you and take care of you. After all, little Qinzi has always regarded you as a younger brother. The white-eyed wolf sighed. Li Feng fell silent. He shook his head and said, I failed to live up to Big Brother Qin's trust and expectations. I don't deserve to be his younger brother, and I don't have the face to see him. Otherwise, I would have already gone to find Big Brother Qin when you all appeared in the Sky Cloud realm. Let's talk about it later. The real culprit behind the massacre of Cloud Village is Long Zun, because she created an unfair system in the ancient Sky Cloud Village. It's also because of her lack of discipline that the people of the dragon race became so arrogant and domineering, treating human lives like grass. She must pay the price for this. Brother Wolf, I beg you, please let me go. I promise you from now on I will never kill an innocent life. Li Feng knelt down in the air with a plop. He looked at the ingrate with a pleading expression. The ingrate lowered his head and looked at Li Feng in silence. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws and shattered the ice crystal sword. Thank you, Brother Wolf. Li Feng was very grateful. Remember what you said today. You can't kill innocent people. If I find out that you don't do it, I'll kill you myself. In other words, this is your last chance. The white-eyed wolf said. I know. I'll do it. Thank you, Brother Wolf. Also, say sorry to Qin Dage for me. Li Feng stood up and turned to leave. Wait. The white-eyed wolf suddenly said. Li Feng stopped and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf in confusion. When little Qinzi gave you the pill to open the door of potential, your cultivation wasn't enough to open the other pages of the pill mantra. So you haven't opened all the doors of potential yet. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw and several pills appeared. They were the pills to open the doors of potential in the Monarch, Paragon, Ninth Heaven, Imperishable and Sovereign realms. This, Li Feng looked at the white-eyed wolf in astonishment. Not only did it not kill him, but it also gave him the remaining pills. When I helped Princess Huafeng and the others open the doors of potential, I took some pills. I was going to give them to the brewers. Since I met you today, I'll help you to the end. Take them. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw and the pills flew to Li Feng. Li Feng looked at the pills and suddenly knelt down in the void. He kowtowed 3 times and said solemnly, Thank you, Brother Wolf. I promise you again that I won't do anything evil in the future. Go. The white-eyed wolf smiled. At this moment it was like a kind elder. Li Feng stood up and put away the pills. He turned and disappeared without looking back. Sigh. The white-eyed wolf sighed. It was supposed to kill Li Feng, but it gave him the pills to open the doors of potential. How could it explain this to little Qinzi? When did it become so kind and benevolent? A moment later, at the top of an ice mountain in the depths, Li Feng landed on the top of the mountain and looked back at the entrance. After a long silence, he took out a face-restoring pill and put it in his mouth. Soon his face was restored. Whoosh! Right at this moment, an old man in blood-red clothes appeared. His face was quite old and his clothes were unknown. Even his hair and eyes were blood-red. He was exuding a shocking bloody aura. So this is why you didn't let me do it. It seems that you're sure that the white-eyed wolf won't kill you, and will even give you the pills to open the doors of potential. The old man in blood-red clothes looked at Li Feng and laughed. Is that what you think? Li Feng whispered without looking at the old man. Otherwise, the old man in blood-red clothes laughed. Li Feng suddenly looked up and stared at the old man in blood-red clothes. His blood-red eyes were like those of a demon king. He grabbed the old man's clothes and roared, I didn't let you do it because I really don't want you to hurt it. Because I'm not lying. They are my only family in this world. Is that so? The old man in blood-red clothes was indifferent. Let me tell you. Although you've made me successful, you've also brought me a body of sin. I can forgive you for everything else, but if you dare to hurt Qin Dage and the others, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Li Feng's eyes were filled with a ferocious light. He was like a beast that bared its fangs. The old man's pupils shrunk slightly. It seemed that he had guessed wrong. This kid had an inseparable feeling for Qin Feiyong and the others. Li Feng slowly let go of the old man in blood-red clothes. He looked up at the depths of the glacier forest and said indifferently, "You said that you'll tell me your true identity and your purpose after I break through to the sovereign realm, right?" "Yes." The old man in blood-red clothes nodded. "Then you better not go back on your words." A cold light flashed in Li Feng's eyes. He soared into the sky and disappeared into the depths of the glacier forest. Sky Palace. Along with the appearance of a space-time passage, the white-eyed wolf returned and landed beside Qin Feiyong and Madman. "How was it?" Madman hurriedly asked. "It's Li Feng." The white-eyed wolf nodded. "It's really him." Madman's expression froze. Qin Feiyong frowned and asked, "Then where is he? Could it be that you can't stop him with your strength?" Cough cough. The white-eyed wolf dryly coughed and said with an embarrassed smile, This big brother was careless and let him slip away." Madman and Qin Feiyong both looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. In any case, his current strength can't be underestimated. Not only did he comprehend the space-time law, but he also comprehended the ultimate profundity of the slaughter law. The white-eyed wolf waved his paws and turned his head to look elsewhere to hide the guilt on his face. The ultimate profundity of the slaughter law? Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. This was a bit unexpected. However, even if he comprehended the ultimate profundity of the slaughter law, it was impossible for him to slip away from the white-eyed wolf. After all, the white-eyed wolf had comprehended the ultimate profundity of the 5 strongest laws. At the same time, the woman and the others couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief in their hearts. Princess Huafeng asked, "Then where did he escape to?" "This is our business. What does it have to do with you? Don't talk too much." The white-eyed wolf immediately became angry. Princess Huafeng clenched her fists when she heard this. She gnashed her teeth and glared at the ingrate. The white-eyed wolf directly ignored her and looked at Qin Feiyong and Madman, saying, "Let's get down to business." It was obvious that he was trying to change the topic. Qin Feiyong took a deep look at the white-eyed wolf and looked around. He noticed that there were many Heavenly Palace disciples nearby. He then looked at the woman and the others and transmitted his voice. "There are too many spies now. It's not convenient for us to talk. Come to see Lion Island to look for us later." After that, Qin Feiyong gave the 4 of them a set of coordinates and had the white-eyed wolf open the space-time tunnel. He then left without looking back. They left just like that? It seems like they are not here to cause trouble for the Heavenly Palace. They are here for that Qin Feng. Speaking of which, this Qin Feng actually alarmed Qin Feiyong and the others. I don't think he will have a good ending in the future. That said, these people truly abhor evil. For a Qin Feng, they didn't hesitate to travel thousands of miles to our northern continent. The Heavenly Palace disciples immediately started discussing softly. 3 Palace Masters, Elder Wang. Don't you think you owe us an explanation? After the space-time tunnel dissipated, a group of upper echelons rushed to the 4 heads and frowned. Even they didn't know that Li Feng was hiding in the Heavenly Palace. The middle-aged man in black said angrily, "We have our reasons for doing this. Do we still need to explain to you? If it was an ordinary person it wouldn't matter. But this Qin Feng is a demon who kills people like scything flax. If you don't explain clearly, how will the disciples below talk about you? This isn't the main point. The main point is, once this matter spreads out, how will the people of the northern continent talk about you behind your backs?" The group of upper echelons was burning with anxiety. The heads were all smart people. How could they make such a fatal mistake now? The woman in palace attire was silent for a while. Looking at the group of upper echelons, she sighed and said, "You can help to deal with this matter. If it really doesn't work, you can use our name to apologize to the people of the northern continent and admit your mistake." Palace Master, is there a need to apologize and admit our mistake? The middle-aged man in black frowned. After all, we were in the wrong first. We covered up a murderous demon. Of course, we have to take the attitude of admitting our mistake. I'm a little tired. I'll go back and rest first. After saying that, the woman in palace attire turned and left without looking back. Elder Wang, the middle-aged man in black, and the middle-aged man in white looked at each other and left as well. Chapter 3603. Sea Lion Island. Qin Feiyong in frenzy stared at the white-eyed wolf. Princess Huafeng and the others stood at the side in silence. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong in frenzy and said angrily, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ever since they came to Sea Lion Island, the two of them had been staring at him without saying a word. "Brother Wolf, do we look like fools to you?" Frenzy said coldly. "No." The white-eyed wolf shook his head. "Since you don't look like fools, why are you lying to us? Tell us what's going on." Qin Feiyong said angrily. "Cough cough." The white-eyed wolf coughed dryly. Look, you're showing a guilty conscience again. Don't you know how many years we've known you? Do you think you can hide your thoughts from us?" Frenzy said with disdain. The white-eyed wolf glared at Frenzy angrily and glanced at Princess Huafeng and the others. Then, with a wave of his paw, a soundproof barrier appeared. Being so mysterious, it's definitely not a good thing. Princess Huafeng snorted coldly. She was very dissatisfied that the white-eyed wolf was still so guarded against them. Inside the barrier, the white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong and Frenzy and smiled embarrassedly. "Nothing can escape your eyes. That's right, I let him go." "Why?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "I was going to kill him. And I was determined to kill him so that I could save you some trouble. But when I heard what he said, I really couldn't do it." The white-eyed wolf sighed. "What kind of words could make you feel compassion?" Frenzy was curious. "He said that we are his only family in this world. And he also promised me that he would never kill an innocent life from now on. Actually, he has already done that. After breaking through to the sovereign realm, he has never harmed the northern continent again." The white-eyed wolf said. "My only family." Qin Feiyong and the madman both fell silent. He also said that he was too ashamed to see us because he knew that he had committed grave sins. Furthermore, he also said that he was constantly paying attention to us and caring about us. Actually, putting everything else aside, this child's attitude towards us is quite good. Besides, the reason why he became like this is because of the dragons." The white-eyed wolf sighed. "So you're saying that he's still thinking about killing Long Zun?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Yes. At that time, what he said to me the most was that he would atone for his sins with his death after we killed Long Zun's family," the white-eyed wolf said. "Then where is he now?" Madman frowned. "Death Glacier," the white-eyed wolf said. "Why don't we give him another chance? In any case, we are all in the Sky Cloud realm right now. Moreover, the southern continent, western continent, and eastern continent are now under our control. As long as there is news of him doing evil, we will be the first to know." The white-eyed wolf looked at the two and smiled. "You let him go, what else can we do?" Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other and couldn't help but roll their eyes. "Not only did I let him go, but I also gave him a pill to open the door of potential." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Qin Feiyong's face darkened. The madman was also speechless and asked, "What about the blood ancestor?" "Blood ancestor?" The white-eyed wolf was taken aback for a moment before he slapped his head and said in annoyance, "Look at my memory. I actually forgot about that old bastard." "All right, I'll give it to you." Qin Feiyong and the madman sighed helplessly. This bastard was indeed unreliable. The madman pondered for a while and looked at Qin Feiyong. "Speaking of the blood ancestor, is Long Tianyu the reincarnation of the blood ancestor? Didn't I already read his memory in the ancient world? There was no information about the blood ancestor at all." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "Then how do you explain the aura that erupted uncontrollably when he was in danger?" The madman frowned. They had already verified this matter. Whenever Long Tianyu was in danger, a terrifying energy would erupt from his body. According to the Beast Lord, this energy was exactly the same as the blood ancestors. Qin Feiyong thought for a while and shook his head. I'm afraid no one knows about this except for the blood ancestor himself, but Long Qianyu Li Feng, and the blood ancestor must be related in some way. Let's wait. Long Qianyu is with us anyway, so the truth will come out sooner or later. The madman and the white-eyed wolf nodded. Shua. Suddenly, a space-time passage appeared in the sky. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw 4 figures walk out. They were the 4 giants of the heavenly palace. They had left separately in the heavenly palace in order not to arouse the suspicion of the disciples below. After all, they were giants and they weren't stupid. Since Qin Feiyang had secretly asked them to come to the Sea Lion Island, he definitely didn't want others to know. Come in. Qin Feiyang smiled. The 4 of them looked at each other and entered the soundproof barrier. Qin Feiyang asked, "No one knows that you came to the Sea Lion Island, right?" The 4 of them shook their heads. Actually, when we first came to the northern continent, even we didn't know what we were going to do. But now I have a goal. The 4 of you should have seen the situation in the Tianyun realm clearly. The Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan have appeared one after another and displayed a terrifying foundation. It's not something that we, the human clan, can contend against. Moreover, to tell you the truth, the core areas of the other 2 forbidden areas also hide the same mysterious race. Qin Feiyang said. What? The 4 of them were shocked. There are also people in the other 2 forbidden areas. The human race is in a dangerous situation now. Any one of the forbidden areas can destroy us. So the human race shouldn't be as scattered as before. We have to unite and face the unknown dangers together. Qin Feiyang said. You mean you want us to submit to you? When the black-clothed middle-aged man heard this, he frowned and asked. Because the eastern, western, and southern continents were now under the control of Qin Feiyang and the others. Only the northern continent was left. But the key was that they didn't want to get involved. Wouldn't it be better to be alone? It's not submission. It's an alliance. Maybe you're suspecting our motives. Joining forces to fight against the forbidden areas is fake. Taking the opportunity to unify the 4 continents is real. But I can tell you responsibly that I, Qin Feiyang, don't have such ambitions and I don't want to get involved in these troublesome matters. I'm just thinking about the safety of the human race. Qin Feiyang smiled. His words were full of sincerity. The 4 of them were silent for a while. The middle-aged man in white looked up at Qin Feiyang and said, Your mouth is on your body. You can say whatever you want. What do you mean? Hurry up and we're doing a thankless job. The madman raised his eyebrows. Everyone knows that the appearance of the Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan is all because of you. Especially the dragons. They're coming for you. Now you want the 4 continents to form an alliance to fight against the 4 forbidden areas. If it were us, wouldn't you suspect our motives? The middle-aged man in white said slowly. His tone was very calm and didn't seem to be offensive. But in fact he was against the alliance. The madman and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but be angry. Qin Feiyang stopped them. He looked at the white-clothed middle-aged man and said with a smile, It's true that the dragons and phoenixes came out of the forbidden areas because of us, but how much do you know about the forbidden areas? Maybe even without us, they would have come out of the forbidden areas sooner or later. Actually, my purpose is very simple. The human race needs to unite first. At least we'll have the ability to deal with unexpected situations in the future. Of course, if the 4 forbidden areas really don't have any other motives and just come for me, it's naturally for the best, because this way they won't implicate others. However, no one can predict how the situation will develop in the future. Therefore, it is best to prepare for a rainy day and be prepared for any eventuality. Qin Feiyang smiled. He knew that it would be difficult to persuade the 4 of them, but he was patient and could take it slowly. The woman in the palace dress pondered for a while and asked, You mean if the 4 forbidden areas really come for you, you won't implicate us? That's right. This is also the reason why I asked you to come to Sea Lion Island secretly to discuss this matter. Because I don't want the dragons to know that you're too close to me. Qin Feiyang nodded. Think about it. If we really want to drag you down, all we have to do is shout in the heavenly palace that you've allied with us. Whether it's true or not, the dragons will believe it. In that case, will the dragons let you go? We're doing everything for your sake. So please trust us a little. Frenzy added. The four of them fell silent with a conflicted look on their faces. The ingrate raised his eyebrows and sneered. If there comes a day when the four forbidden zones really attack the human race, do you think that the Heavenly Palace, as the ruler of the northern continent, can remain unscathed? The four of them trembled. Actually, the best example is the Divine Palace of the southern continent. They also want to stay out of it, but the dragons took the initiative to find them. What can they do? They can only submit. This is the disaster caused by naivety. Since we've already said this, I might as well tell you the truth. On the surface, the Demon Palace, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, and He Zhongqian have all turned against us. But in fact, they're all secretly supporting us. Why are they doing this? That's because they have unconditional trust in us, and know that we're not selfish people. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. The four of them lowered their heads and frowned even more. Actually, you've all seen what happened during this period of time. No matter how we fought with the dragons, we didn't implicate the Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. So, you should be able to guess what kind of person I am. Moreover, if you're willing to form an alliance, I won't treat you badly. Do you know why Princess Huofeng is with me now? Do you know why the Fire Feng people lent me 2 ruler divine weapons? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. The four of them looked at Princess Huofeng and the others in surprise and whispered, "They're from the Fire Phoenix race?" "That's right." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Then why are they with you?" The four of them were suspicious. "Because I have the first volume of the Alchemy Sutra in my hands." Qin Feiyong said word by word, his eyes shining. Chapter 3604. The first volume of the Pill Scripture. Hearing this, the four of them trembled. Did they hear wrongly? The first volume of the Pill Scripture was actually in his hands? Qin Feiyong said, "If you agree to the alliance, I will immediately help you open the door of potential." "That's impossible. My Heavenly Hall, Divine Hall, Blood Hall, Demon Hall, and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance have searched for so many years, but we couldn't find the first volume of the Pill Scripture. How could you have found it?" The middle-aged man in black shook his head. "It's because it's in our hands that you have been searching for so long." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. The woman in palace dress said in a deep voice, "Seeing is believing." Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other and smiled. At the same time, they took off their clothes and 2 potential marks appeared in front of the four of them. The four of them quickly went closer to check. That's right. These were the legendary potential marks. And they were all opened. If only 1 or 2 levels were opened, it might be because Qin Feiyong and Madman were too talented. But if they were all open, there was only one possibility: pills. Qin Feiyong closed his clothes and said with a faint smile, "You guys decide." Madman also closed his clothes and looked at the white-eyed wolf. His eyes flashed with killing intent, but it was hidden so well that the four of them didn't notice it. Besides, they weren't in the mood to care about this now. They were all deeply shocked. For a moment, the enchantment fell into dead silence. After a long time, the woman in palace dress gritted her teeth and looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. She nodded and said, "Okay, I agree to the alliance." "Hallmaster?" The 3 of them looked at the woman in palace dress in shock. "Don't you understand? They are determined to form an alliance this time around. If we don't agree, only death will await us. After all, we know too much now. They won't be at ease letting us leave." The woman in palace dress sighed. The 3 of them were shocked. Qin Feiyong had already told them about his relationship with the Devil Hall, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, He Zhongqian, and the first volume of the Pill Codex. If they still didn't agree, they would definitely be silenced. They couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Unknowingly, he had already made a trip to the gates of hell. Senior is indeed someone who understands the big picture. Qin Feiyong chuckled. With a wave of his hand, a group of people appeared in the castle's cultivation room. The four of them scanned the cultivation room suspiciously. "Ancient castle." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Ancient castle." The four of them were shocked. Could it be the sovereign weapon? Qin Feiyong walked to the front of the altar, picked up his Chenkuan bag, and took out a dozen potential pills. "This is the pill that opens the door to potential." The four of them immediately stared at the door of potential, their eyes filled with surprise and anticipation. Looking at their reactions, Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Before the opening, I have one more request." "What request?" The four of them were suspicious. Qin Feiyong said, "In this world, except for the people around me, I can't trust anyone." Although Qin Feiyong didn't say it explicitly, the four of them knew what he meant. To open the door of potential, they must be under his control. The black-clothed middle-aged man said angrily, "I didn't say this in advance. If you agreed to the alliance without hesitation at the beginning, it proves that you are indeed people who care about the big picture, and I naturally won't control you. But now, you are obviously here for the potential pills, so I have to be careful. Of course, I also promise that when everything is over, I will remove my control over you. And I won't ask you to do anything just because I control you. This is purely an insurance." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. If he helped these people open the door of potential now they turned around and went to the dragons or Feng people, then who could he reason with? The most important thing was, he had to be wary of these people betraying him at the critical moment. Perhaps in the eyes of others, his behavior was a little overbearing, but for safety he had to do this. The woman in the palace dress looked deeply at Qin Feiyong and sighed. "All right, I accept." "Temple Master?" The black-clothed middle-aged man and the other two looked at the woman in the palace dress in shock and anger. She even agreed to this? Did she have a bottom line? "We are already in the ancient castle, do we still have the right to choose? Now we can only pray that he is really someone who is worthy of our trust." The woman in the palace dress shook her head and then closed her eyes. The three of them looked at each other, and a sense of helplessness rose in their hearts. Qin Feiyong possessed several rulers' divine armaments. With the Heavenly Hall's single ruler's divine armament, they simply did not possess the qualifications to contend against him. Thus, they all closed their eyes as if they were waiting for death. Looking at the four of them, Qin Feiyong, the black-clothed middle-aged man, and the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. However, they were already used to it. This was because when they controlled others in the past, they would also show such an expression. However, as time passed and they understood more about them, they would slowly become willing to follow them. Qin Feiyong formed a seal with both hands, and 4 slavery seals appeared and instantly entered the four's consciousness. Without any resistance, they were successfully controlled. Qin Feiyong smiled and threw the pills to the white-eyed wolf, saying, "Help them open the door of potential." The white-eyed wolf grinned and said, "Line up one by one." Although the white-eyed wolf's attitude was arrogant, the four of them were secretly relieved. They were originally worried that after they were controlled, Qin Feiyong might make things difficult for them. After all, after being controlled, they would completely lose the right to speak. Even if Qin Feiyong went back on his words and didn't help them open the door of potential, they wouldn't dare to say anything. Fortunately, Qin Feiyong didn't make things difficult for them. Qin Feiyong and the madman walked out of the ancient castle. Now the 4 continents are finally unified. The madman laughed. "You think I want to?" "No, I don't want to at all." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "So what if you don't want to?" This is what the young man meant. "Besides, with your personality, can you just sit back and watch the world suffer?" The madman curled his lips. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. In front of the madman there were no secrets at all. However, did the young man really mean this? Li Feng's appearance made him start to doubt. Perhaps Li Feng was the young man's goal. The madman asked curiously, "Who do you think this Master Jura is? No matter who he is, from his actions he won't be our future enemy. We might even become comrades in the future." Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and said with a faint smile, "That's true." The madman nodded. Qin Feiyong released his divine sense and covered the devil's land. With a thought, Pei Dason and his sister appeared beside him. "Greetings, young master." "Greetings, Sir Madman." The two bowed. "I don't know when Dan Wangkai will return. Go to the cultivation room and find the white-eyed wolf to open the door of potential." Qin Feiyong waved his hand. "Thank you, young master." The two were overjoyed. After bowing, they hurriedly ran into the castle. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and took out the sound transmission god stone. A moment later, He Zhongtian's projection appeared and bowed. "Young master," Qin Feiyong said, "come to Sea Lion Island immediately." Sea Lion Island? He Zhongtian was stunned. After Qin Feiyong gave the coordinates to He Zhongtian, He turned off the sound transmission godstone. The madman asked, "You asked him to come because you want to open the door of potential for him?" "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. "But the grudge between him and the Yun family?" The madman frowned. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. "This is their personal grudge. No matter how they resolve it, it's fine as long as it doesn't affect the overall situation." The madman curled his lips. "You're helping the big shots of the 4 continents open the door of potential for them. You've become the child of wealth. There's no other way. To compete with the 4 forbidden lands, our strength alone isn't enough. Especially the connections the 4 great forces have in the various continents. This is what we need the most. Although there are many talented youths in the Sky Cloud realm, it will take a lot of time and effort to cultivate them. But He Zhongtian and the others are different. They have grasped the strongest law and profound, and they have abundant resources. We only need to help them open the door of potential." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "That makes sense." The madman nodded and then frowned. "Then what about Princess Huafeng and the others? Now they know all our secrets. If they spread it out, it will be very bad for our situation." "Don't worry about that. Although I haven't interacted much, I can see that whether it's Princess Huafeng or the Fire Feng people, they are quite tactful people. I don't dare to say much, but at least in the 1,000 years we agreed, they won't leak these secrets. And after 1,000 years even we can't predict how far we will have developed. So even if they leak these secrets it won't be that important." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Haha, seems like I worried too much." The madman laughed. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. "Plans can't keep up with changes. The future situation may not develop as we think, so we have to be prepared." Soon, He Zhongtian came. Qin Feiyong went out and directly brought him into the Black Tortoise world. When he found out that he helped him open the door of potential, the joy on his face could not be concealed. Half a day passed. The 7 people's doors of potential were all successfully opened. "Young master, thank you. In the future, this subordinate will go through water and tread on fire for young master without hesitation." He Zhongtian and the Pei Dason brothers could not help but kneel on the ground and say gratefully. Qin Feiyong helped the 3 up and looked at the 4 leaders of the Sky Palace with a smile. "How do you feel?" "It's like being reborn." "Thank you." The 4 of them smiled gratefully. "This is what you deserve." Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said, "There's something I want to ask you. Why are you protecting Li Feng?" "It's really to cherish talent. You also saw that he comprehended the law of space and time at such a young age, and even comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of slaughter. Give him some more time and he will definitely have some achievements." The woman in palace attire sighed. Qin Feiyong nodded. From peeking at the woman's inner thoughts, she was not lying. He then said, "Then, did he say anything special to you in the Sky Palace?" "Special?" The 4 of them looked at each other and lowered their heads to ponder. Suddenly, the middle-aged man in black seemed to have thought of something. He looked up at Qin Feiyong and said, "He seems to have mentioned the 4 forbidden areas several times, but he did not explain anything in detail?" Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. "Mentioned the 4 forbidden areas, what was the situation?" Yes. Old Wang also patted his head and said. This old man also remembered. There were several times when he privately asked this old man about the 4 forbidden areas. This old man thought that he wanted to go to the 4 forbidden areas to train, so I kept stopping him. However, he did not force himself and was very obedient. If I did not allow him to go, he did not go. Chapter 3605. Qin Feiyong the madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. It wasn't strange to inquire about the 4 forbidden areas. After all, anyone would be curious about them. However, if one inquired about it repeatedly, it would seem a bit unusual. Because once or twice was out of curiosity, but if one inquired too many times, there might be a purpose. The most important thing was, where was the blood ancestor? After so many years, the blood ancestor should have reconstructed his body and divine soul. Moreover, when they were in the Nether King's hell, they all thought that Li Feng would return to the ancient world. But in the end, the blood ancestor took him straight to the Sky Cloud realm. First, the blood ancestor had long known about the existence of the Sky Cloud realm. At first, even the fire python, the guardian, didn't know that there was a fourth level. Second, there should be something here that the blood ancestor was plotting. Otherwise, why would he take Li Feng here? But it was said that the blood ancestor was a figure of the ancient world. What did he have to do with the sky cloud realm? Could it be that everything was a misunderstanding? Or had the blood ancestor been hiding some secrets all this time? After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyong looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Are you interested in going to the Death Glacier?" The madman and the white-eyed wolf were taken aback. The four giants of the Sky Palace and He Zhongqian looked at each other speechlessly. "Are you interested in going to the Death Glacier?" What an arrogant tone. You know, this was one of the four forbidden areas of the Sky Cloud realm. Not to mention the mysterious race hidden in the core area. The danger of the Death Glacier alone was enough to make people tremble in fear. These fellows were truly audacious. Wherever there was danger, they would run. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and turned to look at the madman. His eyes flickered as he said, "I always feel that these four forbidden areas have a lot to do with the two of us." The two of us? The madman was taken aback and quickly waved his hand. "Don't count me in. If there is a connection, it's only related to you." "Do you really think so? If it has nothing to do with you, would you have that inexplicable sense of intimacy in the Demon land? If it has nothing to do with you, would you be able to absorb the power of the Demon? Furthermore, it allowed the divine power to evolve into the blood demon power?" Qin Feiyong threw out two questions in a row, leaving Madman speechless. When the white-eyed wolf heard this, he turned to look at Madman with a thoughtful expression. Qin Feiyong continued, "Therefore, we need to take a look at the remaining two forbidden areas, the Death Glacier and the Land of Buried Gods. We need to see if we can discover anything." "All right." Madman nodded. "Actually, the most important thing is that I have an intuition." Qin Feiyong looked up at the sky, his eyes flickering. "What intuition?" Madman looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. He didn't believe in other people's intuition, but Qin Feiyong's intuition had always been very accurate. "What does the blood ancestor know?" Qin Feiyong murmured. "Brother Wolf, look." Madman immediately glared at the white-eyed wolf and said angrily, "It's all your fault. Why did you let Li Feng go for no reason?" The white-eyed wolf smiled embarrassedly. It also had feelings, okay? There would definitely be some compassion in his heart. The woman looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf, hesitated for a moment and asked, "Can I ask you a question?" "What question?" The two people and one wolf were puzzled. "Qin Feng." "No, Li Feng, what kind of grudge do you have with him?" As the woman's voice fell, the three people in black also looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf in confusion. Grudge. The two people and one wolf were stunned. Seeing their reaction, the four people became more and more puzzled. "We don't have any grudges with him." Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment, shook his head and sighed. "Not only do we not have any grudges, but we used to have a very good relationship. Many years ago, I gave him a pill to unlock the door of potential." The four people looked at each other. He gave Li Feng a pill to unlock the door of potential? Then their relationship was really unusual. "The reason why I wanted to kill him was because I expected better from him. Originally, I had great expectations for him and wanted him to stay by my side. First, I could teach him cultivation and second, I could take care of him, but..." Qin Feiyong heaved a deep sigh and explained the general situation. Hearing this, the four people suddenly understood. The woman in the palace dress asked, "In other words, you don't hate Li Feng, but you don't want to see him kill the innocent and go astray?" "That's right. Back then, he was a very simple and kind boy. But after meeting the blood ancestor, he became a demon king. In fact, the person I really want to kill is not him, but the blood ancestor," Qin Feiyong said. Elder Wang looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a hoarse laugh, "This old man believes that Li Feng also knows your painstaking efforts and expectations for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have always respected you so much." "Respected me?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "That's right. Over the years, apart from asking about the situation of the four forbidden areas, he also asked about you guys the most. In fact, he even asked us for a favor during the conference." Elder Wang said. "What is it?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "He begged us to lend you a helping hand if necessary. At first, we did not understand why he did this. Although he is still very young, he has a mature and steady personality. He does not show any signs of his actions, making it difficult for others to see through him. Until now, I finally understand that he has always been concerned about you, Elder Wang said. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and frowned. So this is why you did not make things difficult for us during the exchange? Yes. To be honest, the Blood Hall had already contacted us in private. They offered very generous conditions, hoping that the Sky Hall would join forces with them to deal with you. If not for Li Feng's request, we might have been involved in this dispute. Elder Wang sighed. Qin Feiyong fell silent when he heard this. Actually, Li Feng did this to protect the Sky Hall. Madman suddenly laughed. Protect the Sky Hall? The four of them were slightly stunned. That's right. Because Li Feng knows us too well. He did not think highly of the Blood Hall from the beginning. If you guys had really agreed to join forces with the Blood Hall, the Sky Hall would have followed in the footsteps of the Blood Hall, Madman said. The four of them could not help but feel a chill down their spine when they thought about it carefully. Madman glanced at the four of them and then noticed He Zhongqian beside them. He also had a fearful look on his face. Madman asked suspiciously, Old He, what do you want to say? Huh? He Zhongqian came back to his senses and looked at Madman with a flustered expression. Madman pondered for a while and joked. Don't tell me that the Blood Hall also approached the Deity Hall back then? Cough cough. He Zhongqian coughed dryly to hide the awkwardness on his face. As expected, Madman muttered. The woman in palace attire shook her head and smiled. At that time, this old man believes that apart from the Demon Hall, the other major forces such as the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Deity Hall, and my Sky Hall and the Blood Hall had contacted them. Heard about it. He Zhongqian smiled bitterly and nodded. Yes, the Blood Hall did contact our Deity Hall back then. At that time I also agreed to help the Blood Hall, but at that time I did not have the final say in the Deity Hall. Yun Zhongqian clearly expressed his objection. Why did old Yun object? Madman was stunned. He Zhongqian said. Because Yun Zhongqian said that the Blood Hall is not a good person and we can't collude with them. Otherwise, we would be betrayed by them in the end and have to help them count the money. Madman nodded in realization and joked. It seems that Yun Zhongqian has a good eye. He Zhongqian smiled embarrassedly. Later on, when I saw you guys clashing with the Blood Hall several times and the Blood Hall basically suffered a great loss, I was indeed glad that I did not listen to the slanderous words of the Blood Hall. But things are unpredictable. The appearance of the dragons gave you confidence, so you started to deal with us. Madman looked at him playfully. He Zhongqian smiled awkwardly and nodded, yes. Then he looked at Qin Feiyong. He swept his gaze over He Zhongqian and the four heads of the Heavenly Hall, cold sweat dripping down his back. He didn't expect Pei Tianhong to be so ruthless. Not only did he collude with the Wandering Cultivator Alliance, he even instigated the Deity Hall and Heavenly Hall. Looking at it this way, it was all thanks to Li Feng and Yun Zhongqian. Otherwise, facing the Blood Hall, Wandering Cultivator Alliance, Heavenly Hall, and Deity Hall, these four super forces, it would be a struggle to survive. Even with the Demon Hall's help, with their strength at that time, they wouldn't have been able to deal with them easily. Qin Feiyong glanced at the Pei siblings and shook his head. This father of yours is really scary. The siblings smiled embarrassedly. All right. Take good care of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what, the difficult moment was over. Now they had to go all out to deal with the bigger crisis in the future. Yes. The siblings nodded respectfully. Now that they had opened the door to potential, their attitude towards Qin Feiyong was even more respectful than before. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and let everyone out of the Black Tortoise world. Although more than half a day had passed in the Black Tortoise world, only a moment had passed outside. Seeing Qin Feiyong and the others appear, Princess Huafeng's eyes were filled with disdain. Was there a need to guess? It was obvious that the four people of the Heavenly Hall and He Zhongqian had already submitted to Qin Feiyong. These dragons were really pitiful. They thought that they had the overall situation under control and were strategizing. Little did they know that the people who flattered them all day long were already Qin Feiyong's subordinates. Go, everything will be as usual. Qin Feiyong looked at He Zhongqian and the others and smiled faintly. All right. The five of them nodded. After the 5 of them left, Qin Feiyong turned to look at Princess Huafeng and the others and smiled apologetically. Sorry for making you wait for so long. You still know. What do you mean by that? We are members of the Fire Phoenix clan after all. Can't you at least give us some basic respect? Princess Huafeng snorted coldly. Haha, Qin Feiyong laughed. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed slightly as he looked at Qin Feiyong and laughed evilly. Little Qin Zi, little lunatic. Why don't we go straight to the dragon's nest now? What? The 2 of them were stunned. Don't you have 8 sovereign divine weapons now? Together with the sword of Thanatos, the horsetail whisk, and the ancient castle, it won't be a problem to go to the dragon's nest. The white-eyed wolf looked at Lunatic and laughed evilly. Chapter 3606. The madman's expression changed. He quickly looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Don't say that." But before he finished speaking, 8 beams of divine light shot out from the madman's body. Then, without looking back, he disappeared from everyone's sight. They were the 8 ruler-level divine weapons that the madman had found. What's going on? The white-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyong were both stunned. The madman's expression darkened. He glared at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Why do you keep coming up with such stupid ideas? What does this have to do with me?" The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Nonsense. If you didn't tell them to go to the dragon nest, would they have left? The madman roared angrily. How would I know that they would leave after hearing that? The white-eyed wolf also had an aggrieved expression. Qin Feiyong looked suspiciously at the madman and asked, "Senior brother, what's going on?" The madman glanced at the Princess Huafeng and the others and said, "When we borrowed these ruler-level divine weapons from the 8 beast emperors, they already told us that we can only use them for self-defense. If we want them to do something else, they have to leave us immediately. Why didn't you say so earlier?" The white-eyed wolf said angrily, "How would I know that you would suddenly say something like that?" The madman was extremely angry. The white-eyed wolf snorted. "This is your fault. Say it again, whose fault is it?" The madman roared. Qin Feiyong was speechless as he watched the 2 of them bickering. Then, he raised his head and looked in the direction where the 8 sovereign divine weapons had left. It seemed that the 8 beast emperors didn't want to become enemies with the dragons. Just how terrifying were the dragons? Even the 8 beast emperors were so wary of them. When Princess Huafeng and the others saw this scene, they were also suspicious. What were these people doing? Stop, what's there to argue about? The 8 great beast emperors helped us out of kindness, but it's their duty not to help us. We can't force them to do anything. Qin Feiyong stopped the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said, "Don't waste time, let's hurry to the Death Glacier." But then again, the fact that the 8 beast emperors were willing to lend them their sovereign weapons for self-defense was already beyond the realm of ordinary friendship. Although he often sent wine to the 8 beast emperors, how could they care about such a small favor? Could it be that Little Rabbit was secretly helping them? Thinking about it, this was the only possibility, because only the little rabbit had such great face. Seems like I didn't acknowledge him as my big brother for nothing. The white-eyed wolf opened a space-time tunnel. Just as Qin Feiyong was about to enter the space-time tunnel, he suddenly stopped, pondered for a moment, and waved his hand. "Wait a moment, the 8 beast emperors have helped us so much, we naturally have to thank them." After saying that, Qin Feiyong disappeared without a trace. Soon, Qin Feiyong reappeared with 2 interspatial rings in his hand. He handed them to the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "Help me deliver these to the Sea Lion King and Big Brother." After seeing the things in the 2 interspatial rings, the white-eyed wolf's mouth twitched slightly. He said helplessly, "So much divine wine. You are really generous." Divine wine? Pyrotechnic Glow's eyes lit up when he heard that. "Go ahead. They don't care about other things. This is the only way to express our gratitude." Qin Feiyong smiled. The white-eyed wolf nodded and opened a portal to leave. Pyrotechnic Glow approached Qin Feiyong and chuckled. "Qindage, do you really have divine wine?" Qin Feiyong looked at Pyrotechnic Glow in astonishment. Why was the look in his eyes so similar to Yun Zhongyue's? Princess Huafeng's face couldn't help but darken. She said angrily, "Pyrotechnic Glow, what do you want to do?" No. Pyrotechnic Glow hurriedly waved his hand, looking guilty. Soon, the white-eyed wolf returned. Pyrotechnic Glow quietly walked to the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "Wolf pup, brother wolf, do you have more? Give me some." "What do you mean?" The white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. "Aren't you asking the obvious?" Pyrotechnic Glow rolled his eyes and then put on a pitiful look. "Sorry, I really don't understand." The white-eyed wolf waved his claws, opened a space-time portal, and ran in without looking back. Pyrotechnic Glow was about to chase after him, but when he felt Princess Huafeng's fierce eyes, he immediately swallowed his saliva and returned to the first princess's side, cursing the white-eyed wolf in his heart. Didn't he say a few words of disdain at the beginning? Was there a need to be so vengeful? 3 days later, at noon, 3 invisible consciousnesses swept out from the core area of the Demon Land, the Glacier Forest, and the Heavy Domain Land, cut through the sky, and landed in the center of the Heavenly Cloud Sea. And in the center of the Heavenly Cloud Sea, that was the Heavenly Cloud Island. The little rabbit rushed out of the mountain at the first moment, holding a wine jar in her hand, standing on the top of the mountain, glancing at the 3 consciousnesses with a cold light in her eyes. The 3 consciousnesses gathered in the sky above the Heavenly Cloud Island and gradually turned into 3 hazy figures. They couldn't see their faces clearly, nor could they tell whether they were men or women, nor could they sense the slightest aura. But, at this moment, not only the little rabbit, but the 8 beast emperors who controlled the Heavenly Cloud Sea all came out of their caves and looked at the Heavenly Cloud Island with a dignified look in their eyes. At the top of the mountain, the little rabbit held the wine jar, raised her head, and gulped it down in one gulp. Then she casually threw the jar, shattering it with a bang. The person standing on the east side of the Heavenly Cloud Island said, "It seems that our arrival has made you very uncomfortable." This was a man's voice. "Don't talk nonsense." The little rabbit raised her eyebrows. "Okay, this noble one will be frank. When Qin Feiyang came to the Heavenly Cloud Realm, you found us and told us not to kill him before he broke through to the Sovereign Realm. We kept our word. No matter how much trouble the younger generation caused these years, we didn't interfere. But what about you? This time you actually asked the 8 beast emperors to give them 8 sovereign divine weapons. Isn't this a violation of our original agreement?" The person on the east side spoke with a tone that was filled with contempt for the common people of the world. Hearing this, the little rabbit turned to the other 2 and said indifferently, "What do you 2 want to say? Say it all at once." However, the other 2 remained silent. The little rabbit waited for a moment. Seeing that the 2 didn't speak, she looked at the person on the east side. A terrifying aura roared out, and her eyes were as sharp as blades. "What do you mean?" The person on the east side said in a deep voice, "This Lord Rabbit should be asking you this. What do you mean? It's not that you don't know how powerful a sovereign divine weapon is, but you dragons actually gave each of your princes and princesses a sovereign divine weapon? What? Relying on your sovereign divine weapons to bully others?" The little rabbit sneered. The person on the east side said, "It's just for self-defense." "Self-defense? Dragon King, don't you think this is ridiculous? Lord Rabbit doesn't believe that you don't know what those princes and princesses have done outside during this period. They're using it for self-defense. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang, Little Madman, and White-Eyed Wolf being cautious and smart, who knows how many times they would have died. To think that you still dare to come to Lord Rabbit to settle the score. It's good that Lord Rabbit didn't come to settle the score with you," the little rabbit said domineeringly. The person on the east side fell silent. Lord Rabbit admits that it was Lord Rabbit who let the 8 beast emperors lend their sovereign divine weapons to Little Madman. But so what? Lord Rabbit is just imitating you. The little rabbit sneered. "Fine. My dragons are in the wrong in this matter." The person on the east side nodded. "Don't say that. If you want to say something, you should say that your princes and princesses are too useless. Even if you brought so many sovereign divine weapons, you still fell in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others time and time again." The little rabbit's face was full of disdain. Although it couldn't see the Dragon King's expression, it could clearly feel a wave of anger from him. He said in a deep voice, "Fine, let's not talk about these things of the past now. Let's talk about the future. Speak, Lord Rabbit is listening." The little rabbit took out another wine jar and lay down on a rock, drinking leisurely. Back then, our agreement was that before Qin Feiyang stepped into the sovereign realm, we wouldn't personally make a move against him. But now he has broken through to the sovereign realm. You shouldn't obstruct us anymore, right? The Dragon King's tone was filled with killing intent. Of course. The little rabbit nodded and glanced at the other two with a meaningful smile in its eyes. It looked at the Dragon King and said, "But now you have to ask them if they agree." The Dragon King looked at the other two. "Hey, you little bastard, you're really the same as before. Everything is within your calculations." A person in the west chuckled. This was a woman's voice. It was incomparably gentle, but there was a trace of helplessness towards the little rabbit. The little rabbit snorted coldly and said, "Stinky woman, don't keep calling me little bastard. In terms of age, you still have to call Lord Rabbit ancestor." The woman seemed to be speechless. She raised her head and looked at the Dragon King, saying indifferently, "Sorry, the Feng people in Qin Feiyang have already made an agreement that we won't make a move against them for 1,000 years. Bastard! Why would you make such an agreement with Qin Feiyang?" The Dragon King was instantly enraged when he heard that. The woman smiled faintly and said, "This is the business of the Feng people. There shouldn't be a need to report to Lord Dragon King in advance." The Dragon King clenched his fists and looked at the other person. "I have also made an agreement with someone to not make a move against Qin Feiyang and the rest for 1,000 years. This was the voice of an old man. Although it was hoarse, it was sonorous and powerful, with a natural pressure. "Both have an agreement? What exactly are you doing? It seems that Qin Feiyang has never been to your death glacier at all." The Dragon King looked at the old man and said angrily. The old man said, "He has never been there. And I didn't make an agreement with him." "You didn't make an agreement with him?" The Dragon King was slightly taken aback and said suspiciously, "Then who did you make an agreement with? This bastard who drinks like his life?" "Fuck. Who are you scolding? Who's the bastard? Say it again if you have the guts. Lord Rabbit will immediately kill his way to the dragon's nest and raise your nest to the ground." The little rabbit immediately glared at the Dragon King. Chapter 3607. Go ahead and try if you have the ability. When Dragon King heard this, he wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was full of provocation. "Shameless." The little rabbit was disdainful and said indifferently, "Their agreement has nothing to do with Uncle Rabbit at all. But Uncle Rabbit knows the reason inside." "What reason?" Dragon King was puzzled. The little rabbit joked, "If you beg me, I will tell you." As the master of the forbidden area, Dragon King's temperament was definitely far beyond ordinary people. But looking at the little rabbit who was acting like a scoundrel at this moment, he couldn't help but be annoyed. "Little bastard, can you stop angering our Dragon King? If you accidentally anger him to death, you will have to find a grave for him in the heavenly cloud sea." The woman chuckled. "It's okay, my heavenly cloud sea has nothing but big. Not to mention finding a grave for him, even if you two are at it, it doesn't matter. Why don't Uncle Rabbit help the three of you find a grave now? Don't worry, old friends of many years, Uncle Rabbit will never cheat you. I promise to help you find a place with good feng shui." The little rabbit bared his teeth. As soon as these words came out, whether it was Dragon King, the woman, or the old man, they all glared at the little rabbit fiercely. Dragon King ignored the little rabbit and looked at the woman and the old man, saying in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" The old man said in a hoarse voice, "As the master of the forbidden area, you must keep your words. Since you have already made an agreement, you naturally can't go back on your words." "Is that so? But why do I feel that you are trying to curry favor with him?" Dragon King sneered. The woman said proudly, "What a joke. Do we need to curry favor with a human brat? Apart from curry favor, I really can't think of any other reason, but don't forget that you are also involved in that matter. No matter how you curry favor with Qin Feiyang now, when he learns the truth, he will not let you go." Dragon King smiled coldly. "I don't need you to remind me. We haven't forgotten about this matter." As if touching on some taboo, the woman and the old man's tone instantly emitted a bone-piercing cold current. "It's fine as long as you haven't forgotten. Everyone has seen Qin Feiyang's growth speed. If we continue to sit back and do nothing and let him continue to grow like this, a second human sovereign will inevitably be born in the future. You know what the consequences will be then. That's all I have to say. Think about it. After saying that, the Dragon King's consciousness dissipated in the void. The woman and the old man remained silent. Little Rabbit drank as she watched the two of them without batting an eyelid. After a long time, their consciousnesses also dissipated in the void of space. The little rabbit immediately let out a sigh of relief. Wang! The void distorted and the Sea Lion Emperor landed on the mountain peak. He smiled. Uncle Rabbit, I didn't expect you to be so nervous. How could the masters of the 3 great forbidden areas not be nervous? The little rabbit rolled her eyes at him. The Sea Lion Emperor couldn't help but laugh. He lifted his head to look at the horizon and sighed. It seems that Qin Feiyong and the others have already made the 3 lords of the forbidden zones wary. Are you telling a joke? A mere Qin Feiyong, a little lunatic, a wolf cub, can make the 3 lords wary? What they are really wary of is not Qin Feiyong and the others, but the one imprisoned in the land of the buried gods. If this one escapes, the 3 great forbidden areas will definitely face a catastrophe. Moreover, the other few have also quietly returned. Although they are still very weak now, when the day they awaken the 3 great forbidden areas, they will definitely pay the price. As for Qin Feiyong, he has indeed displayed extraordinary talent and means, but it still depends on his luck. Let's wait patiently. After saying that, the little rabbit got up and disappeared into the mountains below with the wine jar. After the Sea Lion Emperor watched the little rabbit leave, he retracted his gaze and looked at the endless sea in front of him. He muttered, "You don't have much time left. Hurry up and awaken." At the same time, Death Glacier. Heavy snow swirled and the cold wind was bone-chilling. In the past 3 days, Qin Feiyong and the others had been rushing on their way. The current Qin Feiyong and Lunatic had both reached the sovereign realm, so their speed was naturally incomparable to before. At this moment, they had already reached the central region. The Death Glacier was the same as the Een Devil Land and the Heavy region. It was divided into the outer region, the edge region, the central region, the inner region, and the core region. Every region was incomparably vast. At this moment, they stood above a glacier and scanned the front. The glaciers in the central region were even more magnificent. There were countless ice mountains that were tens of thousands of feet tall, and beasts could often be seen appearing. The Death Glacier was the same as the Een Devil Land. There were a large number of beasts, but the difference was, the Death Glacier didn't have anything like the Een Devil power, nor did it have the gravity of the Heavy region. Whether it was a human or a beast, as long as they could withstand the cold current of the Death Glacier, they could stay here for a long time. However, if one thought that the risk of the Death Glacier was small, then it was a big mistake. Because this kind of cold current wasn't something an ordinary person could withstand. For the cold current of the Edge region, even a beginner sovereign wouldn't be able to withstand it for more than a few days. Along the way, Qin Feiyong and the others saw many humans and beasts being swallowed by the cold current, turning into ice sculptures and freezing to death. Because the cold current here couldn't be isolated or blocked by any defensive items. Even if one activated the power of law, they couldn't block the invasion of the cold current. To sum it up, it ignored all defenses and was all-pervasive. So, the beasts that wandered in the central region were basically at the sovereign realm and above. Compared to the Een Devil Land and the Heavy region, the Death Glacier had a large number of treasures. For example, divine herbs, divine items, and ruins. Ruins were battlefields left behind from battles between humans and ferocious beasts, or ferocious beasts against ferocious beasts. These battlefields, after being covered by ice and snow, became the treasures of the Death Glacier. After all, a sovereign realm expert would carry a large number of treasures and divine items with them. When they died, the things left behind would undoubtedly be treasures. Therefore, it was easier to obtain divine items here than the Een Devil Land and the Heavy region, but it was also more cruel. For example, at this moment, Qin Feiyong and the others were in the central region and sensed several battlefields. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and didn't pay attention to the battlefields in the distance. Because they had seen too much fighting for treasures in the Edge region, they couldn't care less. Besides, the strong preyed on the weak. This was the law of survival. When these people entered the Death Glacier, They should be prepared to die. Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at Princess Huafeng and the others, and asked, "Are you sure you want to continue to follow us? Otherwise, we're already here," Princess Huafeng said. Qin Feiyong frowned. What was this woman's purpose? Daifuku hesitated, looked at Princess Huafeng and Pyrotechnic Glow, and said, "Your Highnesses, this old man thinks that we can't continue to go deeper." "Why?" The brother and sister looked at him in confusion. "We are different from Qin Feiyong and the others. They are human beings, we are Feng people, and they know us. If the Kirin clan knows that we broke into the Death Glacier, it will definitely arouse their hostility." Daifuku was worried. The Kirin clan? Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf were stunned. That's right. The owner of the Death Glacier is the Kirin clan. Daifuku nodded. "Kirin," Qin Feiyong murmured. The White-Eyed Wolf said in surprise, "Little Qinzi, we can't find Fire Kirin for a long time. Do you think it is now in the Kirin clan?" Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. Fire Kirin couldn't change its appearance like Li Feng. Besides, if Fire Kirin was now in the 4 continents, it would definitely take the initiative to come to him. Because Fire Kirin was different from Li Feng. Fire Kirin had never done anything to let them down. However, after so many years, even though he, the madman, and the White-Eyed Wolf were famous in the Sky Cloud realm, they didn't see Fire Kirin appear. Perhaps it was as the White-Eyed Wolf guessed, Fire Kirin might be in the Kirin clan now. The madman pondered for a while, then turned to look at Qin Feiyong and asked, "I remember you said that the next layer of the ancient castle seal requires you and Fire Kirin's blood essence to unlock it, right?" "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. "In that case, whether it is in the Kirin clan or not, we have to go and take a look. We must succeed, we can't fail," Madman said in a powerful voice. If the core area of the Death Glacier was other races, they wouldn't think so. But if it was the Kirin clan, the meaning was completely different. There were many kinds of Kirin clan. For example, Fire Kirin, Blood Kirin, Ink Kirin, Water Kirin, Earth Kirin, Wind Kirin, Snow Kirin, and so on. Among them, Fire Kirin was the leader. If Fire Kirin really came to the Sky Cloud realm and the Kirin clan learned of its existence, they would definitely appear immediately and take it to the Kirin Holy Land. "Your Highness, can you not be so willful? The Feng people, the Kirin clan, and the dragons are not on good terms. If we go like this, the Kirin clan will definitely think that we are provoking them. At that time, I'm afraid that even if Lord Patriarch comes personally, they might not give us face." When the Daifuku brothers heard that Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf wanted to enter the core area, they were shocked. Looking at Princess Huafeng and the madman, they tried to persuade them. "It's okay. It's not like I haven't been to the Kirin Holy Land before. They didn't do anything to me." Princess Huafeng waved her hand. "How can it be the same as before? In the past, it was Lord Patriarch who brought us there as guests. But now we are trespassing. These are 2 different natures." The 2 brothers were really at their wits' end. They couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf for help. Daifuku and the madman's consideration is not wrong. In fact, think about it from another perspective. If the Kirin clan trespassed into the Feng people's territory, what would the Feng people do? They would definitely catch the other party and find trouble with the Kirin clan. Qin Feiyong looked at the siblings and said with a smile, "No, we must go." Pyrotechnic Glow heard and was a little hesitant. But Princess Huafeng decisively shook her head. She was as stubborn as a bull, leaving Qin Feiyong at his wits' end. Chapter 3608. The White-Eyed Wolf looked at Princess Huafeng with a cold light flashing in his eyes. He asked, "Why must I go?" Although he said this, the meaning was obvious. He was doubting Princess Huafeng's motives. "What does it have to do with you?" Princess Huafeng stared at the White-Eyed Wolf. "Of course it has something to do with me. This trip to the Kirin Holy Land is unpredictable. I don't want to have a disaster standing beside me." The White-Eyed Wolf was really straightforward. He didn't hide it at all. Princess Huafeng was about to explode with anger. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. Their eyes were shining. The White-Eyed Wolf had already said this, but Princess Huafeng still didn't want to leave. Why? One must know. Princess Huafeng wasn't an ordinary person. As the pearl in the palm of the Feng people, She had been doted on since she was born. How could she bear such grievances? But, although she was angry, she didn't attack. It was hard to believe that she didn't have any ulterior motives for being so patient. Qin Feiyong stopped the white-eyed wolf, who was about to speak again, and said with a smile, "Let's go. Anyway, she's not afraid. What are we afraid of?" "That's true." The white-eyed wolf nodded and glanced at Princess Huafeng. He bared his teeth and said, "When you encounter danger, don't blame us for not helping you. After all, we are not the same kind of people. We have no obligation to take care of you." "I don't need you to take care of me." Princess Huafeng snorted coldly. "Okay. With this sentence, I'm relieved. Let's go." The white-eyed wolf smiled and stepped into the central area. The wind whistled, and the cold current was bone-chilling. It was just a step away, but it was like two different worlds. The cold current in the central area was at least 10 times more terrifying than the edge area. Damn, it's too cold. When the madman stepped into the central region, he couldn't help but shiver. A layer of frost quickly condensed on his hair and eyebrows. "It is indeed a little scary." Qin Feiyong nodded. Madman looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and frowned. "Why isn't there any frost on you?" Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "It should have something to do with us breaking the limits of our physical bodies. After breaking through the limits of one's physical body, one's endurance would naturally become stronger. Previously, when they were at the border region, because the intensity of the cold current was relatively weak, it was within their tolerance range. There was no frost on their bodies, so they did not pay much attention to it. But now, as soon as he stepped into the central region, the frigid air currents instantly soared by more than 10 times, and the difference between the two regions immediately became apparent. The limits of the physical body. Madman looked at the surrounding glaciers and muttered, "Can the cold currents here strengthen the body?" Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. This guy also wants to break the limits of his physical body, but after thinking about it, wasn't Madman such a person? He could lose to others, but he definitely could not lose to his own people. They had already broken the limits of their physical bodies, so Madman would definitely not be willing to fall behind. It's not that easy. The cold current does have the ability to strengthen the body, but the effect is not much, Princess Huafeng said. Madman asked, "According to what you said, we can only go to the heavy region?" "Not exactly. For example, if we encounter powerful heavenly lightning, it is possible to break the limits of the physical body. But no matter what the innate conditions are, it still depends on luck and perseverance. In other words, without this luck and perseverance, no matter how good the conditions are, you might not be able to break the limits of the physical body. Instead, the chances of losing your life will be higher." The Daifuku brothers explained. "Let's not talk about luck first, just this perseverance. How can I be worse than them?" Madman glanced at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and laughed. "Don't be too confident. Back then, I saw the two of them break the limits of their physical bodies with my own eyes. That kind of pain and torture is not something an ordinary person can endure." Princess Huafeng kindly advised. "Look, do I look like an ordinary person?" Madman laughed arrogantly and turned to look at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf, saying, "You guys go to the Qilin Holy Land first. I will go to the heavy region." Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and nodded. "Up to you. You really won't cry until you enter the coffin." Princess Huafeng coldly snorted. "I am such a person." Madman chuckled. "That's right. This is the difference between you and us. People like us, no matter what difficulties we encounter, we will not run away and face them bravely. But flowers in a greenhouse like you, whenever you encounter the slightest problem, the first thing you think of is to find a backer behind you." The white-eyed wolf looked at Princess Huafeng with eyes full of disdain. "Do I?" Princess Huafeng glared at the white-eyed wolf. With so many people present, he didn't know how to give her some face. He was simply a bastard. The white-eyed wolf ignored her and looked at Madman, saying, "Go, we will solve the matter of the Qilin Holy Land. It's best if you can rush over, but it doesn't matter if you can't." "All right." Madman decisively turned and left the central region, disappearing from their sight like lightning. "Let's continue." Qin Feiyong smiled and rushed forward with the white-eyed wolf. Although the Death Glacier also had rules and restrictions, and although the cold current was bone-chilling, it was the same as the Demon Land. Their speed was not limited. In other words, they could fly at high speed in the air. Infuriating, really infuriating. Princess Huofeng followed behind, staring at the back of the white-eyed wolf, gritting her teeth. Actually, it's not wrong. Whether it's the dragons or the Feng people, the younger generation can't compare to them in terms of perseverance. Daifuku smiled. You're still speaking up for it? Princess Huofeng was annoyed. That's right. Don't help outsiders. Pyrotechnic Glow was also extremely dissatisfied with the white-eyed wolf. Wasn't it just breaking the limit of the physical body? What was it so proud of? I'm not speaking up for it, it's the truth. If the two of you are not convinced, you can also try to break the limit of the physical body and prove yourself. Daifuku transmitted his voice. The siblings looked at each other and clenched their fists tightly, a trace of fighting spirit burning in their eyes. Xiaofu looked at the siblings and secretly said, Big brother, why are you deliberately provoking the two of them? I'm doing this for their own good. In the past, before Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf and lunatic appeared, I thought that the two of them were already dragons and phoenixes. But now, looking at Qin Feiyang and the others, I suddenly realized that the two of them are far from enough. Daifuku transmitted his voice. So you're trying to stimulate the fighting spirit of the two of them. Xiaofu was enlightened. That's right. The two of them were born extraordinary and have great responsibilities. They must be tempered. Actually, that's what the patriarch meant. Daifuku smiled faintly. Huh. Xiaofu was surprised. Daifuku smiled and said, Think about it, with the patriarch's love for the two of them, if there was no reason, would he allow the two of them to follow Qin Feiyang and the others? Xiaofu heard this and asked, Do you mean that the patriarch is using this opportunity to train the two of them? That's right. The two of them were born with outstanding talent, and now that they've opened the door of potential, they're even more amazing. But their temperaments are too far apart. There's a saying that goes, if a jade isn't polished, it won't become a treasure. No matter how talented they are, if they aren't polished, they won't be able to take on great responsibilities in the future. Daifuku sighed. Although the flowers in the greenhouse were delicate and beautiful, they couldn't withstand the destruction of wind and rain. The patriarch had put in a lot of effort, and he only hoped that the two of them could understand. In front, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were alert and vigilant. Although their current strength was enough to suppress everything, they still didn't let down their guard. Qin Feiyang glanced at the white-eyed wolf next to him and chuckled. Why do I feel that you've become more talkative recently? Huh. The white-eyed wolf turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Really? Didn't you notice it yourself? In the past, other than those you're familiar with, you rarely quarreled with others. But now, facing the Feng people, no, it's facing Princess Huofeng. You've been arguing with her for no reason. This seems a bit like you're purposely trying to make your presence known. Tell me honestly, are you interested in her? Qin Feiyang smiled mischievously. Scram. The white-eyed wolf glared at Qin Feiyang angrily and said disdainfully, Who does she think she is? Why would I be interested in her? I just don't like the Fire Phoenix clan. You're not saying what you mean. Pyrotechnic Glow, brother Daifuku is also from the Fire Phoenix clan, but why don't I see you arguing with them? Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. The white-eyed wolf said angrily, Because her status is different. Of course I'll argue with her. Is that really the case? Qin Feiyang laughed. Of course. Why do you like her? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded, but the smile in his eyes was hard to conceal. There were some things that outsiders might be able to see, but the person himself might not be able to. He was sure. The white-eyed wolf was deliberately attracting Princess Huofeng's attention. However, because it was a subconscious action, even it did not realize it. The white-eyed wolf glared at Qin Feiyang and glanced at Princess Huofeng from the corner of its eyes. Would I like this woman? No. I don't want her. Rumble. Gotcha. Another few days passed. Two groups of people were fighting in front of them. The weakest among them was a peak dominator. There were a total of more than 10 people, and they were fighting over the treasures in the ruins. When they noticed that someone was approaching, they immediately stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others fiercely. It's them? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why are they at the Death Glacier again? The group's faces were filled with reverence. However, Qin Feiyong and the others did not pay attention to them and directly passed by them. What's going on? Could it be that they are heading toward the core area of the Death Glacier again? This man and wolf are really powerful. We are treading on thin ice in the forbidden area, and we are trembling with fear. However, they are strolling leisurely, as if they are taking a stroll in their backyard. They are not afraid at all. The two groups did not continue fighting. After dividing the treasures in the ruins amicably, they carefully followed behind Qin Feiyong and the others, their eyes filled with curiosity. Chapter 3609. Again. The white-eyed wolf noticed the dozen or so people following behind and frowned slightly. It was the same when they first entered the Devil Land, and it was the same when they entered the Heavy Domain. Being too famous was not necessarily a good thing. It doesn't matter. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Anyway, these people couldn't enter the inner area. But suddenly, he stopped and turned to look at the dozen or so people. The dozen or so people were shocked, thinking that they had angered Qin Feiyong, and hurriedly said, "Brother Qin, don't misunderstand, we have no ill intentions." "I don't have any other intentions, I just want to ask you about something." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "Heard of it?" The dozen or so people wiped their cold sweat. They thought that he was going to attack them, but it turned out that he wanted to ask about something. "Have you seen this person before?" Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and Qin Feng's shadow appeared. "This looks a bit familiar." "I remember, isn't he that murderous demon King Qin Feng?" "Brother Qin, why are you asking about him? He has already been killed. How could he appear in the Death Glacier?" The group of people said at once. They had been in the Death Glacier all these years, so they didn't know that Qin Feng was not dead. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while, then waved his hand again, condensing Li Feng's original appearance, and asked, "Then have you seen this person before?" "This person, yes. This person's killing intent is too strong, so I have a special impression of him. I met him the day before yesterday. There was a blood-red clothed old man beside him, and his killing intent was also very strong." One of the middle-aged men said. "Blood-red clothed old man?" Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. "That's right. At that time, us brothers were snatching the treasures in a relic. These two people suddenly appeared just like the scene when you appeared today. But the difference is that we thought they would kill us to steal the treasure, so we took the initiative to attack them. But unexpectedly, although they were very strong, they didn't kill us after injuring us. They directly turned and left." The man said. "How strong?" White-eyed wolf asked. "The young man is a high-level sovereign. He has grasped the ultimate profundity of the law of slaughter. As for the old man, he hasn't fought much, so we don't know his abilities. However, we do know that his cultivation is that of a peak sovereign. Actually, at that time, the blood-red clothed old man wanted to kill us, but the youth strongly opposed it," the big man said. "The blood-robed old man must be the blood ancestor. But, he's actually a perfect sovereign. This is truly unimaginable." The white-eyed wolf whispered. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. Could it be that the rumors were wrong? Was the blood ancestor not from the ancient world? That was because it was impossible for the ancient realm to have an expert at the perfection sovereign realm. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Although the origins of the blood ancestor have become confusing, Li Feng's performance has not disappointed us. He has not killed any more innocents. Actually, the burly man and the others weren't innocent, because they were the ones who attacked Li Feng first. However, Li Feng still didn't kill them. It was evident. He was indeed trying to change. When Qin Feiyong heard this, he couldn't help but smile. If Li Feng had really changed, he would naturally be happy. However, this blood ancestor was cruel and ruthless. If he continued to stay by Li Feng's side, it was hard to guarantee that he wouldn't fall again. It seemed that he had to talk to the blood ancestor if he had the chance. What did he want? Why did he choose Li Feng? Half a month later, the group didn't stop to rest and finally arrived at the inner region. There was a towering glacier in front of them. It was like a long city wall that surrounded the inner region and divided the world into two. They really came for the inner region. But the cold current in the inner region can't even last 10 breaths of time. Aren't they courting death by going in like this? The burly man and the others followed. Along the way, many people and beasts joined them. Now, there were 500 to 600 people and beasts following Qin Feiyang and the others. Without exception, they were all here to join in the fun. This was because they knew that no matter where Qin Feiyang and the others went, something big would happen. Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in front of them. Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Was there someone in the inner region? Everyone looked up and saw a fiery red figure standing in the sky above the inner region several miles away. It was a young man in his 20s with a cold face and a threatening aura. There's actually someone in the inner region? How did he resist the cold current in the inner region? Everyone was shocked. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf's pupils shrank slightly. Although he hadn't stepped into the inner area yet, he had gained experience in the Yin Demon Land and the heavy region. He knew that the inner area and the central area were two completely different levels of danger. This person was standing in the inner region and wasn't affected by the cold current at all. It was obvious that he was from the Qilin clan. He was actually standing here waiting for them? Was this a provocation? Except for Qin Feiyang and the golden-winged wolf king, no one is allowed to step into the inner region. Of course, you have to have the ability to do so. The young man glanced at the hundreds of people and beasts behind Qin Feiyang and said domineeringly, "Does that include us?" Princess Huafeng raised her eyebrows and asked, "Of course. You people from Feng people shouldn't step into the Death Glacier." The young man said, "Then I really want to step into the inner region today and see what the consequences will be." Princess Huafeng took a step forward and landed in the sky above the inner region. Divine flames appeared all over her body, and the bone-piercing cold current was actually blocked outside. The hundreds of people and beasts behind Qin Feiyang were dumbfounded. What kind of method was this to block the cold current? This kind of divine flame actually has this ability? The white-eyed wolf murmured and was also quite surprised. It and Qin Feiyang were naturally familiar with this scene. Back in the heavy region, this kind of divine flame could block the attack of the strongest law. This is the Fire Phoenix Flame, also known as the Fire Phoenix Domain. Although the cold current of the Death Glacier is pervasive, it's useless against the divine flame of the Feng people, because this is a super forbidden technique created by us Feng people using the Phoenix Divine Flame. It's similar to the forbidden technique of the dragons. Daifuku explained. Super forbidden technique. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. Actually, the dragons, Feng people, and the Kirin clan all have their own forbidden techniques. You have all seen the forbidden techniques of the dragons. For example, the Fire Dragon Domain and the Golden Dragon Domain are both forbidden techniques. The Feng people have the Fire Phoenix Domain and the Ice Phoenix Domain. Daifuku said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. The white-eyed wolf asked, since it's a forbidden technique, doesn't it have to pay the price of vitality? Yes. Her Highness usually doesn't activate the Fire Phoenix Domain easily, but now that she saw the Kirin clan being so arrogant, she couldn't help but be competitive. Her character is still too weak. She can't keep her composure. Daifuku shook his head. Daifuku, can you not talk about me like that? Look at that person's attitude. He's simply too arrogant. Even if we barged into the Death Glacier without permission, he can't treat us like this. His arrogance shows that he doesn't put the Feng people in his eyes at all. The pyrotechnic glow snorted coldly. Daifuku couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. This was a bit of sophistry. Who would allow others to barge into their home, especially their old rivals? The eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan. The young man opposite her saw Princess Huafeng's action, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, "The eldest princess is indeed courageous. Unfortunately, this isn't the heavy region. It's not your place to behave atrociously here." Boom! A monstrous aura erupted. The young man's cultivation suddenly reached the perfect sovereign realm. As he waved his hand, the law of fire appeared and turned into a monstrous wave of fire that rushed toward Princess Huafeng. Oomph! Princess Huafeng snorted coldly and also activated the law of fire, which surged forward. The two waves of fire collided, and the world suddenly rumbled. The glaciers in all directions crazily collapsed. Chapter 36:11. The battle unfolded in the inner region. In fact, Princess Huafeng was holding back her anger. She was no match for Qin Feiyang. She was no match for the white-eyed wolf either. Later, when the lunatic appeared on White Crane Island, she thought that the lunatic would not be much. However, when the lunatic displayed his terrifying strength, she realized that she was no match for him. This made her feel very frustrated. Therefore, when she saw that the Kirin clan did not give the Feng people any face, she could not help but use the other party as a punching bag. She might not be able to defeat Qin Feiyang, but she thought that she would be able to defeat him. Of course, she also wanted to prove that she was not weak. However, she had encountered a few monsters and had no choice. Boom! The devouring law roared out, and the devouring seal of the fifth ultimacy pressed down on the young man like a giant mountain. Heh! I knew that you were strong. The young man bared his teeth, accompanied by a deafening beast roar. A huge beast appeared out of thin air. It carried a terrifying destructive force and blasted toward the devour seal. Destruction law, Daifuka mumbled. Boom! The two law ultimates collided with a deafening roar. The two of them had similar cultivation and ultimates, so it was naturally difficult to determine who was stronger. However, Princess Huafeng's face was filled with a victorious smile. This was because the strongest law that she had mastered was not only the Devour Law. As a monstrous aura surged out, the Devour Law and the Karma Law's fifth ultimates were activated at the same time. The Devour Seal and the five-colored Divine Lotus were like two supreme divine artifacts that exuded an aura that could destroy the world. As the rumors say, you have mastered two ultimates. It seems that Bing Runing's defeat was not without reason. The young man looked at the two ultimates and narrowed his eyes. It's good that you know, Princess Huafeng said coldly. As she waved her white arm, the two ultimates shattered the sky and charged toward the young man. Haha, Karma Law, Devour Law. As expected of the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan, compared to Bing Runing you are much stronger. However, in front of a peerless genius like me you are still too weak. The young man suddenly burst into laughter, his arrogance boundless. A peerless little demon. When Daifuka heard this he seemed to have thought of something, and his gaze trembled slightly. Big brother, what's wrong? Xiaofu asked suspiciously when she noticed Daifuka's strange behavior. Last time, I heard from the patriarch that a little monster was born in the Fire Qilin clan. This person is so young, but not only has he become a peak sovereign, he has also grasped an ultimate law. Daifuka whispered. The white-eyed wolf beside him also heard Daifuka's words and asked suspiciously, what's so monstrous about a mere ultimate law? You don't know. Apart from the ultimate law, according to the patriarch, this little monster has also comprehended a supreme profundity, Daifuka said. What? Ultimate profound meaning. This time not only White-Eyed Wolf, but even Qin Feiyang and Xiaofu were shocked. The fifth profound meaning and the supreme profound meaning were two completely different concepts, because the ultimate profound meaning was a threshold. If you didn't cross this threshold, you would at most be considered a genius. However, once you pass this hurdle, you would be a true peerless monster. Moreover, only those who had comprehended the ultimate profound meaning were worthy of the title of ultimate expert. But comprehending the ultimate profound meaning was relatively difficult. Ultimate laws were already very difficult to comprehend, but the ultimate profound meaning was even more difficult. Could be said that even the ultimate profound meaning of an ordinary law was extremely difficult. Similarly, if a person of the younger generation could comprehend the ultimate profound meaning of an ordinary law, it would be enough for him to be called a king among his peers. From this, one could imagine how heavy the weight of the profound meanings were. The white-eyed wolf came back to his senses and said jokingly, if this kid is really the peerless monster that your patriarch said, then wouldn't your princess be at a disadvantage? This was because even if this young man had only comprehended the ultimate profound meaning of an ordinary law, he could still crush the Karma Law and the Devour Law. Although the Karma Law and the Devour Law were ultimate laws, Princess Huafeng had yet to comprehend the ultimate profound meaning. Just the fifth profound meaning naturally couldn't be compared to the ultimate profound meaning. When the Daifuka brothers heard this, they silently looked at the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, heavenly fire, burn the gods and demons of the world. The young man pointed at the sky, and an endless wave of fire surged out from his body and rushed into the clouds. The entire sky and earth instantly turned into a sea of fire. A vast and mighty aura spread out in the sky. Not good. He has indeed comprehended the ultimate profound meaning. Daifuku's eyes trembled. Righteous yang qi, turn into lightning. Heavenly fire, destroy gods and demons. The young man was enveloped in a divine radiance, as if a god had descended. As his voice fell, a heavenly fire descended from the sky, containing the power to destroy the world, and blasted toward the five-colored divine lotus and the devour seal. Crack! The two-fifth profound meanings shattered on the spot. Although Princess Huafeng was protected by the Fire Phoenix domain, the backlash from the shattering of the profound meanings caused direct damage to her body. She immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned pale. Your Highness! Daifuku stepped forward and went to rescue her. Back off! Princess Huafeng shouted. Daifuku froze and stopped in the void. Princess Huafeng said in a low voice, if I need your protection every time I'm in trouble, then wouldn't it be like what the white-eyed wolf said, that I'm a flower in a greenhouse? But Daifuku frowned, and his face was full of worry. Isn't this the reason why the Fire Feng people asked her to follow us? And now there's no doubt that this is an opportunity to stimulate her potential. Why should we stop her? Qin Feiyong said lightly. Daifuku turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise. He didn't expect this guy to see through him. You have to believe in her. To be able to comprehend two ultimate laws, her talent isn't inferior to anyone. But her life has been too peaceful. Under your protection, she hasn't experienced the slightest disturbance. What she needs the most now is a desperate situation of life and death. Only then can her true potential be stimulated, and she can break through herself. Moreover, she has the protection of the Fire Phoenix domain. Even if she's hit by the heavenly fire, her life won't be in danger. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Huff! Daifuku took a deep breath and looked up at Princess Huafeng, his eyes full of anticipation. The heavenly fire shattered the sky and shook the heavens. A fatal sense of danger rose in her heart. Princess Huafeng's eyes trembled. She had never felt such despair before. Her body and mind were drowned by fear, and even breathing was difficult. Don't panic. Calm down. Empty your body and mind, and find hope in the desperate situation. Suddenly, a shout sounded in Princess Huafeng's mind. Princess Huafeng's eyes trembled. She immediately closed her eyes and tried her best to forget everything. Life is full of despair. If you're trapped by despair, your heart will be in darkness. So you have to overcome despair. That voice kept echoing in Princess Huafeng's mind. Gradually, Princess Huafeng's mind was empty. She even forgot about the dangerous situation at this moment. Her expression was serene, and her sparkling skin was suffused with a hazy glow. She was as stunning and eye-catching as a fairy. The Daifuku brothers looked at Princess Huafeng in surprise. In the face of such danger, she actually calmed down? It was as if she was in a deep sleep. How did she do it? But at this moment, the white-eyed wolf's mouth had an imperceptible smile. However, as someone who grew up with the white-eyed wolf, Qin Feiyong immediately noticed the smile on the white-eyed wolf's mouth. Qin Feiyong secretly found it funny. This guy was definitely secretly helping Princess Huafeng. Although he said he didn't like it, his body and heart were still quite honest. The heavenly fire was like a bolt of divine thunder, surging aggressively. Princess Huafeng's mind was empty. Her body and mind were pure. Heaven and earth as the furnace, pure yang as the fire, hiding the divine glory of the sun, containing the righteousness of heaven and earth. This thing is the heavenly fire. Seeing that the heavenly fire was about to fall, Princess Huafeng's bright and beautiful face couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. Immediately, she slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were like two scorching suns, illuminating heaven and earth. Woo-woo. The next moment, the wind and clouds surged, and heaven and earth changed color. The sky that was originally covered by the young man's law of fire emerged again. In an instant, it occupied half of the sky, competing with the young man's law of fire. The young man's expression was dazed, full of disbelief. At this time, she actually comprehended the supreme profound of the law of fire. Heavenly fire, burn the gods and demons of the world. Heavenly fire, destroy the gods and demons. Princess Huafeng spoke. Taking a step forward, she avoided the heavenly fire that was coming at her. Following closely, with a wave of her hand, a streak of heavenly fire tore through the sky and descended from the sky, blasting toward the young man's heavenly fire. Boom! The two streaks of heavenly fire collided with a loud bang, and a destructive aura immediately surged out in all directions with this place as the center. Daifuku waved his hand, and the law of space and time emerged, condensing into an invisible barrier, blocking the aura outside. At this moment, he was very excited. He really didn't expect that the eldest princess could comprehend a supreme profound under such circumstances. Although the supreme profound of the law of fire couldn't be compared to the supreme profound of the strongest law, this move had undoubtedly stimulated the eldest princess's own potential, allowing her to successfully break through herself. This was a good start. Moreover, the power of any supreme profound should not be underestimated. At this time, the eldest princess was already a true genius of the Feng people, the #1 person of the Feng people's younger generation. People like Bing Runing could only look up to her in the future. It's time for me to counterattack. A cold light flashed in Princess Huafeng's eyes, and the fifth profound of the law of devour and the supreme profound of the law of fire were activated at the same time. The current her was like a bright star, exceptionally dazzling, and even the young man opposite her couldn't help but be stunned. Stop, this battle is considered your win. The young man sighed helplessly and waved his hand. Considered my win? Princess Huafeng raised her eyebrows. The current situation was clearly one-sided, so why did he say that she had won? It was as if he was letting her win. The 3 profound laws fell, directly drowning the young man. Your strength isn't much, but your competitiveness is impressive. The white-eyed wolf despised him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.